When placing my late husband's ashes in the tomb, our son uncovered the obscured name on the other side of the headstone. There, unmistakably, was the name of his first love. I confronted my son, only for him to retort, "Mom, you're just a country woman who trapped Dad, a senior engineer, with obligations his whole life. You should count yourself lucky, now that they're both gone. The least you could do is honor these star-crossed lovers' final wish," my granddaughter said regretfully. Though Grandpa and Grandma Zhang couldn't share a bed in life, resting together in death is the last tribute we could pay to their enduring love. I literally died of rage before the tombstone. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the day my husband gave my college acceptance letter to his childhood sweetheart. 1. Sister Yao, come quick. Brother Weigwa fell into the river. A young girl came rushing and calling for me, sitting by the hearth. I carefully examined the thin sheet of paper in my hands. Congratulations to Yao Hanmei for being admitted as a freshman to Harbin Institute of Technology's class of 1977. Tears streamed down my face as I finished reading those words. I'd been reborn to the moment I first received my college acceptance letter. My husband Jiang Weigua hasn't forced me yet to hand over the admission letter to his childhood sweetheart, letting her take my place at university. The young girl quickly comforted me. Sister Yao, don't cry, Brother Weigua's fine. He's already rescued Comrade Zhang. He sent me to tell you to bring clothes. Wiping my tears, I thanked the girl and carefully hid the admission letter beneath the bedboards. Only then did I follow the girl to the riverside. A crowd had gathered by the riverbank, whispering and pointing. At the center stood two drenched figures locked in an embrace. The woman clung desperately to the man's neck, her tear-streaked face glistening like rain-soaked pear blossoms. Make way, Sister Yao's here. A girl's sharp cry made the man turn abruptly, staring at his youthful face. My vision blurred momentarily. This was my young husband Jiang Weigua. He frowned at me and asked, "Didn't I tell you to bring some clothes? Why did you come empty-handed?" I looked at them both and said, "What's the point of bringing clothes when they're already soaked through? In my past life, I obediently brought clothes." Only to be scolded by Jiang Weigua for not bringing any for Zhang Wenli. Seeing me arrive, Zhang Wenli peeked out from Jiang Weigua's arms and whimpered, "Sis-in-law, don't blame Weigua. He only went into the river to save me." Wah. Jiang Weigua patted her back soothingly with concern. There, don't cry, you're safe now. It's alright, everything's alright." Several village women turned to look at me simultaneously. One curled her lip disapprovingly and moved to separate them, only to be brushed aside by Jiang Weigua. Without the slightest hesitation, he carried Zhang Wenli straight back to my house. One of the women pulled me aside and whispered urgently, "Hongmei, don't be foolish. How could you let Weigua carry that Zhang girl? There's always been something fishy between them. If that fox spirit steals him away, you'll regret it till your tears run dry." Jiang Weigua carried Zhang Wenli in his heart his entire life, even insisting on being buried beside her in death. Who wouldn't be moved by such profound devotion? 2. I went back to cooking in the kitchen. In my past life, it was their accidental fall into the water that ruined Zhang Wenli's reputation. My mother-in-law and Jiang Weigua forced me to hand over my college admission letter to Zhang Wenli. They went to university together, landed prestigious jobs after graduation, lived glamorous lives, and ultimately achieved fame as respected intellectuals and engineers. Meanwhile, I remained a mud-stained peasant woman, toiling endlessly in the fields with my child and mother-in-law, barely scraping by on meager work points, just trying to feed a family of 4, no, make that 5, since there's Zhang Wenli too. "Hongmei, where are you?" Jiang Weigua shouted through the house. "Come help Wenli change her clothes, she's freezing." Hearing Jiang Weigua's words, fury surged through me. I stormed inside and snapped, "Does she not have hands or feet? A grown woman needs me to dress her." Jiang Weigua looked startled, eyeing me in confusion. "It's such a small thing, why nitpick?" "Hongmei, when did you become so petty?" I sneered. "Since you're so generous, why don't you go change her clothes yourself?" Jiang Weigua grew even more shocked, veins bulging on his forehead. "Yao Hongmei, stop making baseless accusations. Wenli and I are completely innocent. We're married with children. How can you still doubt us like this?" Zhang Wenli wailed loudly from the room. "I can't go on living. Sister-in-law, how could you say such things about us? After what's happened, I'd rather die." With reddened eyes, she rushed out of the room crying, "Weigua, I'm sorry for ruining your reputation. I never should have jumped into the river to save you. My name is tarnished now. I've got nothing left to live for. Weigua, promise me you'll live well and fulfill the dreams we couldn't achieve together." She bolted for the door, only to be grabbed by Jiang Weigua. Jiang Weigua suddenly roared at me, "Yao Hongmei, must you be like those shrews who won't rest until you've driven someone to their death?" Rolling my eyes in exasperation, I shot back, "What's your problem? since when does refusing to change her clothes equate to murder? Stop pinning baseless accusations on me. Jiang Weigua. Watching this tragic lover's drama unfold left me completely unmoved. In my past life, I doted on Zhang Wenli, changing her clothes, brewing ginger tea, yet she never showed gratitude, still forcing me to surrender my college admission letter. Zhang Wenli sobbed violently, thrashing in Jiang Weigua's arms. What's going on? Why the tears? My mother-in-law returned holding our 3-year-old, glaring at them. Weigua. I heard you jumped in the river. Why are you clutching Comrade Zhang? Let go this instant. I saw them exchange glances before Jiang Weigua hastily released her. Mom, I slipped into the river. Wenli saved my life, he blurted. I scoffed. Weigua, who saved whom exactly? By the river. Comrade Zhang said you rescued her. But back home she's claiming she saved you. Are you two putting on some kind of theatrical performance for me? Jiang Weigua's face stiffened before he snapped angrily. Hongmei, why are you being so sarcastic all day? Don't you even trust my word anymore? When we got married, I told you, you need to be more magnanimous. My expression darkened. Jiang Weigua, just how much more magnanimous do you expect me to be? 50 years. I poured my heart and soul into this family for 50 damn years. I worked tirelessly to pay for his education, cared for his aging mother, and bore his children, yet after death, he chose to share eternity with another woman, even confessing to our children that his true love belonged to someone else. Bitter resentment threatened to consume me. Clenching my jaw, I turned and stormed into the kitchen. Jiang Weigua watched my retreating figure and barked another order. Hongmei, make ginger tea, and put extra brown sugar in Wenli's bowl. Out of sheer habit, I found myself reaching for the ginger at home after hearing him speak. Only when it was simmering in the pot did it hit me. Why was I still obeying him in this second chance at life? A bitter chuckle escaped me. For 50 years. Anticipating his needs and following his words had become second nature, ingrained in my very bones. 3. As I set the freshly brewed ginger tea on the table, Zhang Wenli emerged from changing her clothes. Seeing the clothes she was wearing, I snapped. Zhang Wenli, those are my Chinese New Year outfit. Who gave you permission to wear them? Jiang Weigua retorted irritably. I gave them to her. This was the only new set we had at home, so I let Wenli have it. Your clothes are practically rags. How could she possibly wear those? New clothes. My first new outfit in 4 years of marriage to him, just handed over to someone else like this. Jiang Weigua didn't even glance at me, frowning instead at the ginger tea on the table. Didn't I tell you to add more brown sugar? Why didn't you? This is too spicy for Wenli's taste. Go get more sugar right now. Zhang Wenli stole a timid glance at me and tugged at Jiang Weigua's sleeve. Don't trouble yourself. Brother Weigua, we've already imposed on sister-in-law enough today. Jiang Weigua softened his tone. It's nothing. She's just a country woman. Cooking and housework are all she's good for. Making ginger tea is no trouble at all. Here, drink it while it's hot. Zhang Wenli shot me a smug look as she took the ginger tea from Jiang Weigua's hands. Without even glancing my way, Jiang Weigua ordered, Hongmei, Wenli's clothes are still in the room. Go wash them while you're at it. And is dinner ready? She won't be returning to the educated youth dorm tonight. Cook something nice. She saved my life, so you'd better show your gratitude properly. The two of them sat down at the table without a care in the world, fueling the rage boiling inside me. How blind and foolish I must have been in my past life to miss the affection between them. I stormed over and flipped the table. Eat this. Let's see you enjoy your damn meal now. The table crashed, dishes shattered. And they both stared at me in utter disbelief. My mother-in-law and son came rushing out of the bedroom, their faces filled with panic. Jiang Weigua immediately stood up and came to my side, wrapping his arm around my shoulder as he asked gently, Hongmei, what's really bothering you? You've been acting strange all day. I was planning to ask you tonight, did something happen with mom or your brother? Don't worry, just tell me what's wrong. Here we go again, always the same. He's always the first to notice when I'm on the verge of breaking down, stepping forward with concern and comfort. He made me believe I actually mattered to him. That's how he managed to deceive me for 50 whole years. 4. I pushed Jiang Weigua's hand away and said coldly, nothing's wrong. I just can't stand seeing you two sitting together. Jiang Weigua sighed and pulled me closer by the shoulder. How did I just realize you're such a jealous little thing? The moment he finished speaking, the room fell completely silent. I raised an eyebrow at Zhang Wenli, thoroughly satisfied to see her face turn ashen. Enough already, mother-in-law snapped impatiently. We've got company. Can't you two behave yourselves? The boy giggled teasingly. Mommy still wants daddy to carry her. How embarrassing. I went straight to the bedroom and threw Zhang Wenli's dirty laundry out, blushing with embarrassment. Zhang Wenli glanced at Jiang Weigua before finally gathering the soiled clothes and leaving. That night, I quietly took out my admission letter to look at it while faintly hearing my mother-in-law conversing with Jiang Weigua. Weigua, your wife's temper is getting worse by the day. She dared to flip the table right in front of you. Who knows how she'll bully this old woman when you're away at school. A chill ran down my spine. In my past life, I was deeply grateful for the Jiang family's kindness toward mine. After joining the household, no matter how busy things got, I rarely let my mother-in-law lift a finger. Her only responsibility was looking after our son. For 3 years, my mother-in-law hasn't washed a single diaper for her own grandson, yet in her eyes, I'm still the wicked daughter-in-law. I heard Jiang Weigua say, Mom, Hongmei isn't like that. She's just having a bad day, don't take it to heart, I'll talk to her, Mom. After all these years, you know exactly what kind of person Hongmei has been to our family. I'm about to start college soon, and we're counting on her to figure out my tuition. But my mother-in-law snapped back. Supporting a college student should be an honor for the Yao family. If you hadn't married her, weeds would be growing 3 feet high on all 3 of their graves by now. I pushed open the door and glared at them coldly. Jiang Weigua looked guilty, while my mother-in-law shot me a defiant glare. Suddenly, my chest tightened unbearably. Dark spots danced before my eyes as nausea and dizziness overwhelmed me. Then everything went black. When I came to, Jiang Weigua, my mother-in-law, and my own mother were gathered around my bed, beaming at me. I looked up puzzled as Jiang Weigua exclaimed joyfully, No wonder you've been so temperamental. You're pregnant. My mother chuckled. I raised this girl, of course I know her nature. She's the most obedient soul. Normally she wouldn't dream of arguing with you. Even a raised voice would frighten her terribly. This pregnancy is what drove her to such impulsive behavior. Jiang Weigua laughed nervously. Thank heavens nothing worse came of it. If Comrade Zhang had pressed charges, I'm pregnant. It hit me like a thunderbolt. I'd completely forgotten this was the time I was pregnant with my second daughter, with a 3-year-old son already and another baby on the way. Getting to college seemed impossible. Staring at my belly, I clenched my teeth remembering my daughter's betrayal in my past life. Good riddance to such an ungrateful wretch. Mom patted my head and said, Where did you hide your college acceptance letter? Hand it over. It's not like you'll be needing it anyway. Jiang Weigua said to me gently, Hongmei, since you won't need this admission letter anymore, why not give it to Wenli? She's not as bright as you, failed the exam twice already. It'd be perfect for her. My heart sank instantly. No, I won't give it up, I snapped. If you dare hand that letter to her, I'll divorce you. The moment I said it, my mother slapped me across the face, jabbing her finger at my forehead. She shrieked, You ungrateful brat, how dare you talk like that? This is all Weigua spoiling you rotten. Don't think carrying a child makes you untouchable. Tears welled up as I shouted defiantly, Why should I give up my education? Why must I surrender my future to someone else? My mother's voice boomed louder than mine as she screamed, Just because you're a woman, just because you're a mother, just because you're pregnant, look at yourself. What university would want you like this? You disgrace all womankind by attending college in this state. Each of her words pierced through me like a sharpened blade. Even now, 50 years later, my mother's words still cut me to the core. My younger self from 50 years ago and my present self roared in unison. What's wrong with being a woman? What's wrong with being a mother? What's wrong with being pregnant? I earned my college admission through the national exams, and I'll attend university on my own terms. That's something to be proud of. I am proud of myself. 5. I quietly counted my savings. 14 yuan 58 fan, just enough for the train ticket. But what about the baby? Before I could figure out what to do, I ran into Zhang Wenli in the fields, her face glowing with triumph. She swayed over and whispered, Yao Hongmei, did you really think Weigua would ever like you? Wrong. He's always been mine. Why else would he give me your college admission letter? You're just a pitiful worm, destined to rot in these fields as some ignorant peasant woman. My heart dropped. I threw down the sickle and bolted home. Panting, I tore through the house, flipping mattresses and searching everywhere. But my admission letter was gone. Slumped on the floor, my mind was utterly blank. Outside, I heard my mother talking to Jiang Weigua. My daughter still hides things like she did as a child, always under the bed. Found it in one go. Jiang Weigua sounded somewhat guilty. Mom, I gave the admission letter to Wenli. I'm afraid Hongmei will blame me. My mother dismissed it carelessly. That girl is just stubborn. What's the point of her going to college anyway? What decent job can a woman get? Could she even handle factory work? She'll just end up married. She doesn't know how good she has it. Don't worry. If she blames you, just say I took it. 6. During the darkest years for our family, my grandfather and father were tortured to death one after another, leaving only my mother, my brother, and me. Later, my mother decided to take my brother and me to drown ourselves in the river. It was Jiang Weigua and Granny who saved our family. 2 martyrs came from their family, and they shielded us using their status as martyrs' kin. After I married him, those people never came to harass my family again. Our whole family was eternally grateful to him and followed his every word. I've spent a lifetime repaying his kindness. Must I sacrifice another? I refuse to be anyone's daughter-in-law again, let alone remain the Jiang family's live-in maid. Staying in this village means retracing my past life's mistakes. If I want to attend college, my mother-in-law will object, and my own mother would side with her. Without their approval, the village chief won't issue me any recommendation letter. The thought that I might not even make it out of this village fills me with suffocating frustration. Coming back from 50 years in the future, I've long forgotten what was on those college entrance exams. The things I do remember aren't even test material. Even if I took the exams again, there's no guarantee I'd get into university this time. This time, I'm going, no matter what. With this thought, I stepped out into the night and made my way to the educated youth settlement. The mass return of educated youth to cities hadn't begun yet. Those with connections had already gone back, leaving behind only those without any pull. Standing at the settlement's entrance, I shouted Zhang Wenli's name at the top of my lungs. Zhang Wenli. Return my clothes this instant, you shameless vixen. Did you think cozying up to my man would earn you a free outfit? My voice carried far, and soon the entire settlement came pouring out to witness the spectacle. Zhang Wenli's face flushed crimson as she lunged at me. You shameless bitch, how dare you spout such nonsense? I'll tear your filthy mouth apart. I dodged nimbly, kicking her sharply while shouting, throwing a tantrum now. Was I wrong? Did you or didn't you cling to my husband today? And aren't you wearing my brand new dress right now? Lu Jiqing, Zhang Wenli's loyal friend, glared at me furiously. Yao Hongmei, you ungrateful wretch. If Wenli hadn't saved your husband, you'd be wearing widow's weeds by now. Planting my hands on my hips, I spat. Pa, my man can swim just fine. Since when did he need her rescue? She just wanted an excuse to grope him and steal my clothes. Zhang Wenli, give me back my dress this instant. I lunged at her and started tearing at her clothes, playing the role of a shrewish village woman to perfection. Zhang Wenli sobbed as she ripped off her clothes and threw them at me. Take them back, as if I'd want your rags, I sneered. If you didn't want him, why were you wearing his clothes? Stay away from my man from now on. I know you've always had designs on him. We're married with children now, yet you're still clinging to him. Have you no shame? You're lying, you're lying. Zhang Wenli stamped her feet and burst into tears. Seizing the opportunity, I rushed into the educated youth dormitory, searched Zhang Wenli's bunk, and finally retrieved my admission notice. As I walked out holding the notice, Zhang Wenli followed and tried to snatch it. I feigned tearing it apart. If you dare grab it, I'll rip it to pieces. The other educated youths called me a thief. I stared coldly at Zhang Wenli. They're all accusing me of theft. Do you dare tell them what I'm holding? Do you dare publicly admit this belongs to you? Zhang Wenli bit her lip and remained silent. She didn't dare. If the other educated youth found out and reported her, her chance at university would be gone. Seeing her like this, I scoffed and walked away. Zhang Wenli, what's mine stays mine. You can't take it. 7. In the dead of night, I heard loud banging on the door. A woman's voice cried urgently, Jiang Weigua, get up quick. Zhang Wenli jumped into the river. Jiang Weigua sprang up in alarm and rushed out barefoot. Startled, I slowly lay back down and shut my bedroom door. We've got another tough battle ahead tomorrow. Before dawn broke, the house was already filled with commotion. Jiang Weigua pounded on the door. Yao Hongmei, what exactly did you say to Zhang Jiqing last night? Why would you drive her to suicide? Yawning, I retorted, she's still alive, isn't she? Why are you yelling at me? All this melodramatic talk of dying, could it be she's ashamed because I exposed her dirty little secret? Jiang Weigua stared at me in shock and said, Hongmei, I thought you were different from other rural women. You're supposed to be an educated, cultured progressive youth. How could you become so vulgar and shrewish? Crossing my arms and leaning against the doorframe, I retorted, that's right, this is who I am. Too late for regrets now. We've been married for 4 years. My mother-in-law slapped her thighs in outrage, wailing, good heavens, what kind of wife dares speak to her husband like this? Such disgrace for our family. The brigade leader entered with a stern face. Zhang Jiqing is still in the infirmary. Claims your Hongmei drove him to jump in the river. The educated youth are raising hell. You'd better think hard about how to answer for this. I cut Jiang Weigua off before he could speak. Captain, I didn't force her hand. I just went to reclaim my clothes. Whatever nonsense about jumping rivers is her own business. Jiang Weigua stayed silent, just staring at me with that disappointed look. Seeing that familiar gaze again sent a tremor through me, and I instinctively lowered my head. In my past life, whenever he looked at me like that, I'd immediately feel guilty, my voice would shrink, and I'd start scrutinizing myself, wondering what I'd done wrong to upset or disappoint him. But now, I shouldn't hold any expectations toward him anymore. I looked up at the brigade leader and said, "Captain, she's the one making all this fuss. You should ask her what exactly she's causing trouble about. What does she really want?" The brigade leader sighed, clasped his hands behind his back, and turned to leave. "Let Weigwa explain it to you." Jiang Weigwa said irritably, "Wenli hasn't said anything, but Lu Jiqing claims you've ruined her reputation and must compensate her." I stayed silent, waiting for him to continue. "Lu Jiqing says you must voluntarily give your admission letter to Wenli so she can attend school." I laughed bitterly. "What's next? Should we also compensate her with tuition money?" Jiang Weigwa's tone softened. "I'm glad you're being reasonable. I know pregnancy makes you emotional. Which is why I gave your letter to Wenli without telling you. Who knew you'd take it back? As for money, she's only asking for 200 yuan. What? 200 yuan? Where would we get that kind of money?" Before I could speak, my mother-in-law shouted, "Go tell Zhang Jiqing we can't afford it." Jiang Weigwa looked helplessly at his mother. "Mom, this really isn't the time to make things more complicated," his mother retorted indignantly. "Complicated? She's just trying to squeeze more money out of us. Why should we care if she makes a scene? At most, we'll just give her the admission letter." Apparently everyone knew Jiang Weigwa had given the admission letter to Zhang Wenli. I was the only one kept in the dark, but Jiang Weigwa insisted, "Mom, Wenli's family is struggling. She hasn't been able to save much from her years working in the countryside. You can't expect her to go to college empty-handed." My mother-in-law muttered, "That's her problem, just like that." Jiang Weigwa and his mother decided between themselves to hand my admission notice back to Zhang Wenli. They knew full well I objected. I'd even snatched the notice back, yet never bothered to ask my opinion. An inexplicable ache welled up in my chest. Was I always treated this way in my past life, never receiving an ounce of respect at home? I pushed past them toward the door. "I refuse. Why should she get my college acceptance letter? I'm going to ask her straight. Does she even have the shame to enroll using my admission?" Just as I reached the doorway, Jiang Weigwa yanked me back, hissing through gritted teeth, "Yao Hongmei, will you only be satisfied when you've driven her to her grave?" I shot back, "What exactly did I do? All I did was reclaim my clothes and my admission letter. Since when does that count as driving her to despair?" Jiang Weigwa snapped impatiently, "Those rumors you spread at the youth camp. Barging into her room to search her belongings, you've completely ruined her reputation. What more do you want?" Every word I said was true. I shook off his grip. "Fine, it was me. I'm the one who ruined her reputation. Happy now?" Jiang Weigwa suddenly raised his voice. I turned back with a cold smile. "Great, since it's your mess, you clean it up." My mother-in-law frowned disapprovingly. "Hongmei, what nonsense are you saying? Aren't your husband's affairs your own, if you keep this up? I'll have to speak with your mother about how she raised you to be so selfish." She didn't need to go looking. My mother had already arrived. After some discussion, they settled on giving Zhang Wenli 50 yuan in exchange for handing over my admission notice. My mother kept sweet-talking my mother-in-law and Jiang Weigwa while shooting me daggered glares. I can already predict Mom will call me into her room later to lecture me about never forgetting Jiang Weigwa's kindness to our Yao family. 8. Through tears, I told Mom, "I know our family wouldn't exist without the Jiangs. All these years I've been repaying their kindness. We even funded Jiang Weigwa through college. Mom, I want to go to university too. Can't you support me just this once? Once I graduate and start earning, I'll repay the Jiang family properly." In my past life, I was utterly dependent on others, so helpless that I couldn't even afford medical care when my mother fell ill, forced to watch her suffer. This time around, I'm determined to protect my loved ones with my own strength. My mother slapped me across the face and stormed off in a rage. Jiang Weigwa entered with a bowl of brown sugar water, hesitating before saying, "Hongmei, I've always admired your academic brilliance, but with our baby on the way, shouldn't you prioritize their well-being? And our 3-year-old son, how can you bear to leave him behind for school?" My toddler came running in on his little legs, arms outstretched toward me. "Mommy, up." Seeing the innocent confusion in his eyes, I realized this wasn't the ungrateful man he'd become 50 years later. I shouldn't resent him. Scooping up the child, I said firmly to Jiang Weigwa, "Weigwa, no matter what happens, I'm determined to continue my education." Jiang Weigwa broke down. "When you took those exams, you promised it was just for practice. You swore you wouldn't actually go to college. How could you go back on your word?" I pressed my lips together and remained silent. "Jiang Weigwa, you're the last person who has any right to criticize me." After a moment's silence, Jiang Weigwa walked over and embraced me. "Hongmei, I'd indulge you in anything else, but not this. We're married now. If we both go off to school, leaving my mother and child behind, What kind of impression would that make? What would the villagers say? Be good and listen to me. After I graduate and get assigned a job, I'll bring you to live in the city, Hongmei. I know you wouldn't put me in a difficult position, would you? You've always been so good to me. Don't worry, I'll never forget your kindness. Just take care of things at home for me, and I promise I'll never leave you. Now hand over the admission notice. I looked up at him with a wry smile. Jiang Weigua seemed true to his word. In our past life, he did stay by my side until his dying day, yet he loved Zhang Wenli his entire life too. I spoke up, Weigua, how about I go to college while you stay home with the kids and tend the fields? Jiang Weigua's face darkened instantly. Absolutely not. What's a woman doing going to school? Seeing me stare at him unblinkingly, he pleaded earnestly. Hongmei, look around, isn't it always the men who go to school while women stay home? How would it look if I stayed home with the kids? You're a woman, your place is at home, I sneered. If women aren't supposed to attend college, then why did you give my admission letter to Zhang Wenli? Jiang Weigua's face turned ashen, utterly speechless. Jiang Weigua reached out toward me. Hongmei, I've tried reasoning with you every way I know how. Why must you be so stubborn? Just hand over the admission letter already. Stop making a scene, will you? I met his gaze coolly. Either let me attend school, or we get divorced. Take your pick. Jiang Weigua gasped. Yao Hongmei, have you lost your mind? Our marriage is fine. Why would you even mention divorce? Divorce, let's divorce. Our son suddenly darted out from nowhere, rushing to Zhang Wenli and clinging to her leg. I want Auntie Zhang to be my new mom. I gasped sharply, clenching my fists. My gaze fell upon my son. His eyes were no longer the clear, innocent pools they once were, now clouded with unspoken complexities. Had my son been reborn? Clutching Zhang Wenli tighter, he insisted, Dad, I want Mommy Zhang. I only want Mommy Zhang. Jiang Weigua quickly pulled him over, flushing crimson as he apologized to Zhang Wenli. I'm so sorry, he's just a kid babbling nonsense. Please don't take it to heart. Zhang Wenli watched the father and son, her ears burning red. The way they were gazing at each other lovingly made me feel like an outsider. Seeing the indifferent look in my son's eyes, I wondered, could Jiang Weigua have been reborn? If he were reborn too, what choice would he make? 9. Before Jiang Weigua's rebirth could happen, the educated youth showed up at his door causing trouble. They accused him of taking advantage of Zhang Wenli and demanded he take responsibility. Lu Jiqing exclaimed indignantly. We educated youths came to the countryside to help rural communities build better homes, yet you locals bully us at every turn. We'll report this. The educated youth office will see justice served. Turns out Jiang Weigua and Zhang Wenli were caught embracing behind the hills. Zhang Wenli kept sobbing afterward, making the educated youths assume Jiang had harassed her, combined with my verbal abuse toward Zhang days earlier. They became convinced Jiang still harbored improper intentions toward her. That's why they came making trouble at our home. I calmly asked Lu Jiqing. Jiang Weigua is already married. What kind of responsibility do you expect him to take? Should he marry Zhang Wenli? The educated youths exchanged glances. Lu Jiqing cleared his throat and said, Wenli claims it was a misunderstanding. We don't want to push too hard. Just have your family pay 2,000 yuan as compensation and apology. Not a chance. Even if we had the money, we wouldn't give it. I flatly refused. Lu Jiqing flew into a rage. If you're too stingy to pay up, we'll go straight to the police. Jiang Weigua's indecent behavior could get him executed. I spread my hands helplessly. No money anyway. Report me if you want, see if I care. Jiang Weigua looked at me with bitter anguish. Hongmei, you've got ice in your veins. You're signing my death warrant. I whispered deliberately. They'd never go to the police. Zhang Wenli's crazy about you. She'd never send you to the gallows. Lu Jiqing stomped her foot angrily when she saw I wouldn't yield. We're reporting this to the police right now. Don't you dare regret it. Before she could step out, my mother-in-law came rushing in. No, you mustn't go. Absolutely not. She marched up and slapped me. Yao Hongmei, you ungrateful wretch. You'd be dead if our Jiang family hadn't saved you. How dare you try to ruin my son? You poisonous schemer. I dodged her slap hastily. Mom, you've got it all wrong. It's Weigua who got caught misbehaving. This has nothing to do with me. My mother-in-law snapped angrily. What do you mean it's none of your business? They're asking for money. Hurry up and pay them. I told her I didn't have any money, so she demanded I ask my mother for it. I took a deep breath and flat out refused. When I married into this family, my mother nearly bankrupted herself giving me a dowry, close to 1,000 in total. Without that money, Jiang Weigua and his mother would have starved to death. There's no way Jiang Weigua could have finished high school normally and taken the college entrance exams. Seeing my refusal, Jiang Weigua gave me a wounded look before lowering his head. Go report me to the police then. No, brother Weigua. Zhang Wenli suddenly appeared at the doorway, her face strained with restraint as she explained to everyone. I twisted my ankle in the mountains. Brother Weigua was just helping me. He wasn't taking advantage. You got it all wrong. With those words, she limped away, sobbing uncontrollably. Jiang Weigua made to follow her, reaching out before pulling back, then crouched weeping with his head in his hands. A sharp pain shot through my calf. Looking down, I saw my son kicking me, his face twisted with rage as he shouted, "You monster, monster." Zhang Wenli's reputation had indeed been ruined. Local hoodlums began cornering her in secluded spots, trying to take advantage. Fortunately, Jiang Weigua showed up just in time and chased off those hoodlums. Zhang Wenli coldly told Jiang Weigua to stay away. She was now a woman with a ruined reputation, while he was about to become a college student with boundless prospects. Through tears, she said, "Brother Weigua, we've ended up on different paths after all, like two parallel lines that'll never meet. I wish you every success and the brightest future. Forget about me. That man just now said he doesn't care about my tarnished name. He's willing to marry me. I'm going to be his wife." Jiang Weigua pulled her into an embrace and kissed her fiercely. "No, I won't allow it." The local hoodlum and his gang were watching nearby with me when we stepped forward just as they were locked in a passionate kiss. Both my mother and mother-in-law got down on their knees begging me not to divorce Jiang Weigua. Zhang Wenli promised to marry that troublemaker and cut all ties with Jiang Weigua if I'd just hand over the college admission letter. But I didn't trust a word she said. In my past life, when she stole my admission letter, she also swore she'd never see Jiang Weigua again, yet they kept their tangled relationship going for decades. My mother slapped me repeatedly. "I never knew you were so wild-hearted. You're a mother now. Yet all you think about is running away. Who'll take care of this family if you leave? Weigua's such a good man. Where else would you find someone like him?" "Hongmei, listen to your mother. I'd never steer you wrong. Stop this nonsense and think about the baby you're carrying. Truth is, there's nothing left to consider." I could feel the cramps twisting in my belly. The mountain herbs I'd gathered were finally taking effect. My son stared at the pool of fresh blood by my feet with conflicted eyes, and I flashed him a bloody grin. This time, nothing could chain me down. I'd finally divorced Jiang Weigua. I was taken home to the sound of my mother's sighs. 2 weeks later, with my meager savings of 14 yuan and 58 cents and a simple bag of belongings, I boarded the train. Not a single soul came to see me off when I left. The bitter wind howled, yet I walked with burning determination. This path I've trodden alone, but never with regret, and thus began my decade-long journey. 10 years later, I returned to my hometown, shadowed by plainclothes officers clutching concealed weapons, ever vigilant. After entering university, I skipped regular coursework and instead transcribed knowledge from my past life memories to submit to professors. Over this decade, I've helped our nation avoid industrial detours from my previous life, pioneering steelmaking tech, paint formulations, and next-gen CNC machine tools. These were originally Jiang Weigua's research projects stored in his study. I'd browse them while cleaning his room, witnessing China's industrial boom across 50 years. I memorized its evolutionary path, providing researchers this roadmap accelerated breakthroughs beyond expectations. I became the youngest researcher in the country with the most RD achievements, one of the nation's most crucial scientific researchers. I saw Jiang Weigua again. I thought he'd become a technician just like in our past life. To everyone's surprise, he ended up becoming a farmer and fathering 2 more children. It turned out that before marrying Zhang Wenli, her family demanded a 200 yuan bride price, seized his college admission letter, and gave it to her brother. They threatened to report Jiang Weigua for hooliganism if he refused to comply. Jiang Weigua had planned to retake the exam the following year, but household chores completely consumed his time and energy. Year after year, he dreamed of taking the college entrance exam, only to be thwarted each time by Zhang Wenli's schemes until he aged out of eligibility. The couple became permanent fixtures in rural life. As for my son, barely old enough to work, he had to toil in the fields, manage household chores, and look after younger siblings. When he saw me again, he shyly wiped his hands and gazed up. "Mom, you're amazing. I saw your name in the news." I couldn't believe someone so accomplished was my mother. "Are you here to take me away?" "I'm all packed. We can leave right now." I shook my head. "I've got too much on my plate to look after a child. Besides, staying here lets you witness your father's beautiful love story firsthand." My son's face fell. "Mom, you see how I'm living now. I can't take it anymore. Take me with you. All these years, I've been waiting for you to come get me." I replied with a smile. "Well, you made your choice." He screamed bitterly. "Mom, you've been reborn too, haven't you? How could you be so selfish? You stole Dad's chance, I scoffed coldly, ignoring him completely. Jiang Weigua stood before me just as timidly. Hongmei, you're back. Would you like to come inside? I shook my head and turned him down. The resentment I'd carried from our past life had faded over these 10 years. I turned and kept walking forward. Behind me echoed the sounds of Zhang Wenli fighting with him. Returning home, I pushed open the door and said to my gray-haired mother, Mom, I'm back. All these years, I've been doing just fine. See, I didn't get married, but I've accomplished so much. With tears glistening in her eyes, my mother said, I'm sorry. I almost ruined your life back then. I hugged her and said, it's okay, you meant well. But in your worldview, you genuinely believe a woman's ultimate happiness lies in depending on a husband. Look, Mom, we women can be our own pillars of strength. The purpose of my second chance isn't to make those who wronged me regret, but to become my best self. Story 2. I took out my black card and was about to sponsor Shinsu's tuition fees. The innocent and young him suddenly became cold and noble. The bullet comments scrolled wildly in front of my eyes. The male protagonist has been reborn and returned to the beginning of everything. In this life, he can finally make up for the regrets of the previous life with his childhood sweetheart. If it wasn't for the female supporting character relying on having a bit of money and getting in the way between the male and female protagonists in the previous life, how could the male and female protagonists have missed each other for a whole lifetime? When I looked up, I met Shinsu's suddenly cold and gloomy eyes and eyebrows. He only turned his eyes red for no reason when looking at his childhood sweetheart. Oh, dear. The male protagonist has been reborn at the age of 18, penniless and with nothing to his name. 1. I was quite close to Shinsu, and I could clearly feel the change in his overall temperament. It was the kind of noble aura that was nurtured by money over a long period of time. It was absolutely impossible for such an aura to appear on a poor young man. He glanced at the black card in my hand with disgust, and his voice was indifferent. I've said that I will find a way to pay my own tuition fees. I don't need you to insult my dignity with your money. After saying that, he directly bypassed me and hugged Su Miao Miao, who was full of hostility towards me, in his arms. The strength was so great that it was as if he was holding a precious treasure that he had lost and found again. Miao Miao, after going through so much, I've come to realize that the person I love the most in my life is you. There were whispers of admiration all around. The bullet comments in front of my eyes scrolled even more densely. Ah, the male protagonist is so brave. He actually confessed his love to the female protagonist, his childhood sweetheart, the moment he was reborn. That's right, he's not at all hesitant. The vicious female supporting character must be stunned now. In the previous life, the male protagonist reluctantly accepted your black card for the sake of tuition fees and agreed to be with you. Now that he's reborn, no amount of money you offer will be of any use. 2. I rubbed my eyes and looked at the scrolling subtitles that appeared out of thin air. I pieced together a fact from the inside. I am the female supporting character in their mouths. I am the vicious young lady who forced the male protagonist to be with me with money. The Shinsu in front of me has been reborn. In the previous life, when I first entered university, I fell in love with him at first sight. When I learned that he didn't have the money to pay his tuition fees, I took out my black card on my own initiative and offered to cover all his expenses for the 4 years of university, and I proposed that we be together. Shinsu struggled for a long time. Finally, he clenched the black card and reluctantly agreed with humiliation. And he buried the little childhood sweetheart he had been secretly in love with for many years in his heart. He believed that I had broken up his love with Su Miao Miao, and he also disliked my arrogant young lady's temper. He was both inferior and sensitive. He thought that he was inferior in love and had no dignity at all, but he was used to living a rich life and didn't want to lose me, his cash cow. In the second year after graduation, when the news of Su Miao Miao's marriage came, the love that had been suppressed for many years surged out. Shinsu drove in a hurry to the wedding of his childhood sweetheart, wanting to stage a crazy act of stealing the bride. However, he was distracted on the way there and collided with a freight truck, dying on the spot. After being reborn, the first thing he did was to express the love that he hadn't been able to say in the previous life to his little childhood sweetheart. To make up for the regrets of the previous life, I frowned. What the bullet comments said did match my arrogant character. But as they said, Shinsu took so much money from me, and after graduation, I even introduced connections for him to start a company. What's wrong with him being subservient to me? This young lady. What's wrong with him obeying me? This young lady. Isn't that what he should do? Does he really want to live off a woman and try to take over my Jiang family's fortune? I sneered and decisively threw the black card to a boy who was passing by. Shinsu, who said I was going to sponsor your tuition fees. The person I want to give it to is clearly him, good-looking guy. Would you like to be my boyfriend? 3. What's going on? Did I miss something earlier? Why did the black card go to someone else? Hey, this guy. It's no use for you to take the black card. The female supporting character only likes the male protagonist. She will never even look at anyone else in this life. It's just a strategy of retreating to advance. Hee hee. The male protagonist won't fall for this trick. Shinsu's body stiffened. He had just been reborn, and there was a hint of disbelief and confusion in his eyes. It seemed that he didn't realize that the plot of this life was slightly different from that of the previous life. But his beloved was right in front of him, and the fear of death and the joy of rebirth were still overwhelming his mind, so he didn't think too much about it. I warmly invited this handsome guy to have a meal with me. It had just been a short time since the start of the semester, and I wasn't very familiar with the faces around me. As for Shinsu, I had also heard some classmates whispering that he still hadn't managed to gather enough tuition fees. That's why I kindly took out my black card and wanted to ask if we could become boyfriend and girlfriend. After all, his well-defined face was exactly to my taste, making me lose my mind and stop thinking rationally. Perhaps, in the previous life, I really did love Shinsu, but in this life, love was strangled in the cradle before it even began. I have plenty of money. I am the only daughter of the richest Jiang family, the richest in the country. I am a young lady who has never suffered any grievances. Why should I cling to one wrong person? Who can't I fall in love with? This handsome guy in front of me who was holding the black card also had a face that was to my taste. I chose the most high-end restaurant near the school. I frowned and looked through the menu, and then I threw it to the waiter. Bring out all the signature dishes here. The waiter happily trotted away. The door of the hotel was pushed open, attracting everyone's attention. I turned around and took a look. It was the reborn male protagonist, holding his beloved little childhood sweetheart in his arms. 4. Shinsu in the previous life was really well nurtured by money, whether it was his dining etiquette or his posture. There was not a single thing that could be faulted. He was completely like a wealthy young master. He glanced in my direction from time to time, and a contempt and annoyance in his eyes couldn't be suppressed. It seemed that he was certain that I was here to try to strike up a conversation with him, and that he couldn't get rid of me no matter what. He was even more convinced that me having a meal with another guy was to make him jealous. Shinsu sat up straight, casually ordered 7 or 8 signature dishes from the menu, and then looked at her affectionately. Meow meow. The food here is just SOSO. You can just make do with it for this meal. When I have time, I will definitely take you to taste the most top-notch air-flown fresh seafood. Then I'll take you to a luxury goods store and buy you some of the latest seasonal clothes. Su Meow Meow was so lucky that she almost fainted when she was suddenly given such wonderful promises. She glanced at me triumphantly and raised her voice. Brother Shen, today is the first day we've confirmed our relationship. I have a gift that I prepared for a long time to give to you. There was a look of pride on her face. The bullet comments said that Su Meow Meow and Shinsu were childhood sweethearts and had been waiting to confess their love and start a relationship after they were admitted to the same university. When I took out the black card, Su Meow Meow was so angry that her teeth almost chattered. The way she looked at me was just like looking at a mistress who had stolen her love. But when Shinsu agreed to be my boyfriend in the previous life, he didn't mention the existence of Su Meow Meow, did he? Su Meow Meow took out a simple box mysteriously. There was a look of excitement on Shinsu's face. The bullet comments were also screaming wildly, OMG. The first meeting between the male and female protagonists after being reborn is so sweet. The progress is really fast. It's so fast that I can't even keep up with their development. Guess what's in this box? I remember that in the previous life, Jiangji gave the male protagonist a famous watch worth more than 1 million yuan, although the female protagonist doesn't have as much money as the vicious female supporting character now. The gift must have been given with great care. The box was held in the palm of her hand, and it didn't have much weight. Shinsu opened it with great anticipation. Inside lay a small jar of handmade paper stars. Su Meow Meow blinked her eyes. Brother Shen, I specially folded these during the summer vacation, just waiting for us to be admitted to the same university, and then I could give them to you when I confessed. On each piece of paper in the folded stars, there is a sentence I love you written on it. So, do you like it? 5. The bullet comments that had been bustling just now fell silent. If I didn't know that Shinsu had been reborn, I might have thought that he would like this gift. Perhaps, this box of paper stars was a rare expression of affection for the 18-year-old Shinsu. It was innocent and beautiful, but under his innocent appearance, there was a reborn soul of a 24-year-old. This 24-year-old person was used to eating delicious delicacies, had seen many famous watches and luxury cars, and was already accustomed to the luxury goods that came to him in droves. Even just a few hours ago, when Shinsu died in a car accident, he was driving the Maybach in my garage. The soft leather steering wheel and the rough wooden box in the palm of his hand had a world of difference in texture. I smiled and took out a watch from my bag. I had casually bought it when passing by a luxury watch store today. Since this young man named Su Xiaoyu had become my boyfriend, I couldn't show favoritism. I pushed the exquisite watch box in front of him. Boyfriend, today is also the first day we're together. This is the gift I prepared for you. Take a look and see if you like it. No, wasn't this watch given to the male protagonist in the previous life? Why is it being given to someone else? The female supporting character must still be using the strategy of retreating to advance to attract the male protagonist's attention. Believe me, she won't be able to hold on for long. Yes, the female supporting character's current actions are completely causing her to lose her composure. The famous watch sparkled brightly. Su Xiaoyu hadn't yet recovered from the shock of the black card, and now he was faced with a second surprise. His hands trembling, he reached out to touch the watch dial, but was shouted at by Shinsu. Don't touch it, this clearly belongs to me. The rest of his words were swallowed back before he could finish them. I knew. He wanted to say that this watch was his. The bullet comments mentioned that in the previous life, he had worn this watch for 6 years and liked it very much. Every night before going to bed, he would take it off, carefully wipe it, and then put it back in the box. This life was different from the previous life. Now, with the company of his beloved childhood sweetheart, he must have lost interest in these worldly things. Su Miao frowned and rolled her eyes at me. Is having money so great? You stink of money. A watch without any sentiment behind it can't compare to my box of stars filled with my love at all. Brother Shen, don't you think so? Shinsu then came back to his senses and forced a smile. Miao is right. He regained his spirits and was just about to pick up a piece of food for his beloved childhood sweetheart when his phone suddenly rang. The knockoff phone didn't have good sound reception. Not too far away, I clearly heard a cold female voice coming from the phone. Hello, Mr. Shen, the medical expenses for your mother in the hospital need to be renewed. 6. Shinsu's face suddenly changed. The bullet comments immediately became anxious. I almost forgot. The male protagonist's mother is seriously ill in the hospital and is waiting for the money to save her life. I remember that in the previous life, the female supporting character directly threw 1 million yuan into the hospital, and the surgery went very smoothly. OMG. Surely not. The male and female protagonists had just met and had a little bit of sweet interaction. Could the female supporting character be using the male protagonist's mother's illness to blackmail the male protagonist into being with her again? Why is the female supporting character always so persistent and annoying? Oh no, the female supporting character is looking in the male protagonist's direction. She must think she has found an opportunity to strike up a conversation. I remembered that before I took out the black card, I had heard some classmates say Shinsu's mother had been suffering from cancer for several years, and all the family's savings had been exhausted. They were heavily in debt. I quickly looked back at Su Xiaoyu. Is there no one in your family who is sick? No. Shinsu stood up with a pale face and was about to go to the hospital, but was stopped by the waiter. Sir, you haven't settled the bill yet. There was a burst of laughter all around. In the previous life, with the backing of my Jiang family, no matter which high-end restaurant he went to, the owner would always welcome him with a smile and flatteringly invite him in, and they would say that there was no hurry to settle the bill and that he could pay it all at once after several visits. He had been reborn for too short a time. Obviously, he hadn't changed his living habits yet. The waiter had already presented the bill. It was 280 yuan. Such a small amount of money was less than half a bottle of red wine that the male protagonist used to drink in the previous life. Shinsu instinctively reached for the black card. It was only when he touched nothing that a layer of cold sweat suddenly broke out on his forehead. That's right. He had returned to being 18 years old, younger, more innocent, and also poorer. Now, he was penniless, not to mention 280 yuan. He didn't even have the 80 yuan that was the remainder. The waiter had a professional smile on his face. Shinsu gritted his teeth and said to Su Miao with difficulty, Miao, could you please pay for this meal first? I'll transfer the money to you later. 7. Su Miao became wary. Brother Shen, my monthly living expenses are only 500 yuan. This meal alone costs 200 yuan. What am I going to do for the rest of the month? Don't worry. I have a way to earn money. What way can you have to earn money? Besides, you said you were treating. So why are you asking me to pay? Su Miao mumbled and didn't want to pay the bill. The young male and female protagonists, who had just confessed their love less than an hour ago, faced the first bump in their love. I took out my card in a timely manner and called out, "Waiter." Shinsu turned his face away in disgust, as if the next second, I would pester him and cling to him, after being reborn. He didn't want to have any connection with an arrogant young lady like me at all. The humiliation of me throwing money at him in the previous life was still vivid in his memory. His tone was filled with deep disgust. "Jiangji, how many times have I told you? Can you stay away from me? I really hate your persistent pestering, and I'm even more annoyed by you interfering between me and Meow Meow. Neither I nor my mother need your filthy money." I was surprised by Shinsu's cheekiness, even according to what the bullet comments said. I was deeply in love with him in the previous life, but in this life, we haven't been together at all. The bullet comments appeared in a timely manner. When I heard that Shinsu didn't have the money to pay his tuition fees, I just took out the black card. I hadn't even said a word asking him to be my boyfriend, yet he took the lead in declaring his love to his little childhood sweetheart. Before this, we didn't even have any interaction. It was him who hated the person from the previous life, but it was also him who couldn't extricate himself from the previous life. I sneered. "I was just calling the waiter to settle the bill, Student Shin. Do you have some kind of delusion, always thinking that I'm pestering you?" 8. Shinsu turned pale. Only then did he realize later that in this life, we were now like strangers. The 6 years of entanglement in the previous life hadn't happened yet. After realizing this, he stumbled and took a step backward. The bullet comments became anxious. "What's going on? Why isn't the female supporting character paying to treat Shinsu's mother's illness?" "Exactly, Shinsu's mother has cancer. If the female supporting character doesn't give the money, where will the male protagonist get that astronomical sum of money?" Shinsu's mother is the only one who has comforted the male protagonist during his 6 years of life. Looking at the rolling bullet comments one by one, I sank my face. They call these 6 years, during which I threw money at Shinsu, a life. It was a humiliating experience that Shinsu couldn't bear to look back on, in the previous life, after I used money to help Shinsu's mother. What I got was her and Shinsu's calculations in private. "Xiaosu, how can a woman ride over a man's head? Listen to mom, you have to keep all the money in your own hands and make the woman live according to your face. My son is so excellent and has been admitted to a good university. There are plenty of girls who are willing to throw themselves at you. Jiangji is the only daughter of the Jiang family. Sooner or later, the money will belong to our Shin family, right?" Shinsu nodded with great patience and humiliation. Unfortunately, the huge wealth of the Jiang family was not something that an outsider like him could lay his hands on. All he could get was just a little bit that leaked from between my fingers. If he was obedient, I would give him a little. If he wasn't obedient, he wouldn't get even a penny. A young lady like me, who was born into such a wealthy family, how could I be so stupid as to hand over the family property? Shinsu envied and longed for everything of the Jiang family, but there was nothing he could do about it. Su Xiaoyu couldn't help but speak up. "Student Shen, it's clearly you who have been pestering student Jiangji. She hasn't paid any attention to you at all, but you keep putting on an appearance of being coerced and humiliated. It's really ridiculous." Shinsu's face darkened, and his tone was impatient. "Su, you country bumpkin, do you even deserve to talk to me in this tone? Do you know who I am?" 9. His voice was low. He was very much like a domineering CEO, exuding a kind of nobility nurtured by money. After his company was established in the previous life, countless people flattered him and called him Mr. Shen. After being called that many times, he became complacent. However, Shinsu hadn't realized yet, at this moment, the clothes he was wearing were even worse than Su Xiaoyu's. I raised my eyebrows and clapped my hands. "Student Shen is right." Su Xiaoyu looked at me pitifully. I sized up his clothes. They were ordinary and cheap. Wearing them, wasn't he just like a country bumpkin? I frowned and waved my hand, showing the arrogance of a young lady. Such shabby clothes. I wouldn't even wear them if they were given to me. "Su Xiaoyu, you immediately come with me to the mall now. Don't leave the mall until you bought clothes worth at least 100,000 yuan. 10. I walked out of the mall carrying several shopping bags. Su Xiaoyu was once again in a state of shock. He couldn't come to his senses for a long time. I lazily flicked my long shawl hair. My boyfriend should naturally wear the best clothes. Everything I gave Shinsu in the previous life, I will never give even the tiniest bit of it in this life. The bullet comments were still discussing Shinsu's current situation. He was now completely overwhelmed by money matters, tuition fees, living expenses, and the money for his mother's medical treatment. If Su Miao Miao was his only regret in the previous life, then in this life, after he had made up for that only regret, 20 new regrets emerged. On the way back to school, I watched the bullet comments with great interest. Male protagonist, don't go to the female supporting character, you'll be pestered by her for many more years. I'd rather see your sweet love with the female protagonist. The male protagonist is so pitiful. He's still going to be forced to go back to the female supporting character. Who can stand the female supporting character's young lady's temper? Sigh. Is there really no way to get rid of the control of the vicious female supporting character even after being reborn? Scrolling down along with the bullet comments, sure enough, in front of the dormitory, I saw Shinsu's aloof figure. It seemed that he had been waiting for me for a long time. When he saw me, he first gave a desolate smile, and then, as if accepting his fate, he said, Jiangji, I admit defeat. I still can't escape your entanglement. Alright then, as long as you give me the black card and promise to tone down your young lady's temper, I'm willing to agree to be your boyfriend. 11. When he said these words, he was in a state of complete dejection. It was as if he had made a great determination, and also as if he had made a huge concession. On his face, there even appeared humiliation and embarrassment. His dignity was really valuable. He actually tried to compare it to my unlimited black card. I smiled mockingly. I've never seen someone so tough when asking for a favor. I couldn't help but remind him, Student Shen, may I ask if we know each other? Shinsu sneered, Jiangji, no one knows you better than I do. Do you think that by using this strategy of retreating to advance, I'll take another look at you? Come on, just give me the black card quickly. My mom is still waiting for the money urgently in the hospital. His tone was very certain. He was sure that I would accommodate him. In the previous life, I was with him for 6 years. If it wasn't because of love, it would have been impossible for me to persist for so long. He had seen me crazy about love. He had also seen my flamboyant way of showing my love publicly, as the one who was favored. He had always been fearless. The outstanding fees for Shinsu's mother in the hospital could no longer be delayed. A mess was waiting for him to use money to fill it. Su Xiaoyu decisively stood in front of me, breaking Shinsu's arrogance. When did Jiangji ever say that she wanted you to be her boyfriend? 12. The last sentence was like a bolt from the blue, stunning Shinsu on the spot. He stood there in a daze for a long time, and suddenly remembered one thing. The first thing he did when he was reborn was to confess his love to Su Miao. As for me, I really hadn't said anything about asking him to be my boyfriend. The entanglements with me in the previous life hadn't happened yet in this life. But soon, Shinsu shook his head self-deprecatingly. The 6 years of entanglement in the previous life were really unforgettable. One thing after another, he couldn't believe that I had never loved him. He sighed, and the weariness in his tone couldn't be suppressed. Alright, Jiangji, I admit that my confession to Miao Miao made you unhappy. But my mom's situation really can't be delayed any longer. Give me the card, and I'll forget about the past. Seeing Shinsu's dejected compromise, the bullet comments were all anxious. The male protagonist got reborn. Why is he getting entangled with the female supporting character again? Next, the 6-year-long humiliating life begins again. But if there wasn't the female supporting character, the male protagonist would just be a poor student now, even if he wants to start a business. He doesn't have the startup capital. How can he raise the money? I looked at Shinsu. I was answering him, and also answering the bullet comments. If you don't have money, find a way yourself. If you're not willing to part with your kidneys, don't you have your buttocks? 13. It seemed that I had hurt Shinsu's self-esteem, and he didn't show up for a whole month. I still remember that before he left that day, he gritted his teeth and said, Jiangji, you never know how to change your young lady's temper, and you never realize how disgusting such a temper is. As a punishment, you should calm down and think it over yourself. You won't see me again for the next month. The reward came too suddenly. I actually had a sense of unreality. We were in the same department but different classes. In such a big campus, it was extremely difficult to accidentally meet someone. After Shinsu disappeared, I had more contact with Su Xiaoyu. He stood quietly downstairs of the dormitory every day, waiting to go to class with me. He even volunteered to help me fetch water and buy food. He was stopped by my roommate Lin Pan fiercely. Master, young lady, you just focus on the romantic things. Leave this kind of rough work to me to do for you. Lin Pan's original name was Lin Pandian, after being admitted to university. Her family didn't give her a single penny and urged her to get married quickly to exchange the betrothal gift for her younger brother to buy a house and a car. The stubborn Lin Pan changed her name, carried her luggage in a snakeskin bag, and set foot on the road to pursue her studies alone. On the first day of school, I proposed that she help me fetch water and buy food, paying her 200 yuan each time. She hugged me and cried for a long time in excitement, and took on all these tasks. I had already left Shinsu behind. Instead, the bullet comments would occasionally report his recent situation to show their presence. For example, he was borrowing money everywhere to fill the holes. But how much money could the surrounding students have? It was just a drop in the bucket and couldn't solve the problem. Penniless, he even had to rely on Su Miao's help for his meals. The lover he had once regretted not being able to be with was now having more and more conflicts in their daily interactions. In order to save money, Shinsu, who had never worked part-time in the previous life, actually went out to do part-time jobs. Just when I thought I would never meet Shinsu again, I accidentally met him when I accompanied Su Xiaoyu to the school cafeteria for a meal. I usually only showed up here on weekends. Shinsu came from Monday to Friday. And the place where he did part-time jobs on weekends provided meals. We were like two parallel lines that would never intersect. But this weekend, the parallel lines intersected miraculously. Shinsu, who should have been outside the school on the weekend, was actually sitting upright in the cafeteria. 14. There was a slight change in his temperament. When he was just reborn, he had the nobility nurtured by money, and there was a kind of inexplicable confidence in his every move. Now, he was only left with a face full of exhaustion and anxiety. He had lost a lot of weight. His eyebrows were also furrowed unnaturally. When Su Xiaoyu and I walked into the cafeteria hand in hand, we just saw Su Miao mysteriously carrying the food and saying cheerfully, "Brother Shen, today I managed to get the most delicious food in the cafeteria. Try it quickly." After saying that, she put the food in front of Shinsu as if showing off her credit. It was a serving of large pot dishes that cost 7 yuan. It was greasy and tasteless. I could clearly see the look of disgust on his face. How can the male protagonist eat this kind of food? Exactly. In the previous life, every meal was delicious delicacies. Why does he have to eat these things every day after being reborn? And the male protagonist's clothes. The whole set costs only a few tens of yuan. In the previous life, he wore the latest luxury brands. But everything the male protagonist had was brought to him by the female supporting character. If there wasn't the female supporting character, he would have to live such a life originally. This life is just going back to the real starting point. Once this sentence was said, no one responded. The bullet comments had once said, after I fell in love with Shinsu in the previous life, I had never eaten in the school cafeteria. Every meal was either a big meal outside or the housekeeper would arrange fresh seafood sashimi and send it to the school. As for clothes, I would go to a luxury goods store once a week and bring back a full carload each time. Shinsu almost never wore the same set of clothes a second time. He adapted very quickly to such a luxurious life. Day after day, he became extremely picky about his food and clothing, suddenly returning to the soft large pot dishes. Of course he found it hard to swallow. He also felt uncomfortable wearing the cheap clothes. After hesitating for a long time, Shinsu still put down his chopsticks. He stammered to Su Miao in front of him. Miao, I want to ask you for a favor." "What favor?" Can you lend me 300,000 yuan?" 15. Su Miao choked on a piece of tofu and instinctively raised her voice and shouted sharply, "What did you say? You're asking me to lend you 300,000 yuan. You've been eating and drinking my things. And you still haven't returned the 280 yuan for the meal you borrowed from me half a month ago. Now you actually have the nerve to ask me for 300,000 yuan. Countless piercing gazes were directed at Shinsu. I also clicked my tongue in surprise. The wealthy life in the previous life had really spoiled Shinsu's appetite. Su Miao's family background wasn't much better than Shinsu's. As a student, how could she get 300,000 yuan for him? Su Miao was still screaming. Do you know that my parents can't even earn 100,000 yuan in a year? How can you, a grown man, have the nerve to ask me for money? You keep using my meal card to eat in the cafeteria and still complain that the food is, saying it can't compare to the air-flown fresh seafood. Now you're poorer than your face. Did you eat the fresh seafood in your dreams? Shinsu's face turned as red as fire. He couldn't help but complain. I ended up like this because of you. Clearly, every meal I had before was never less than 1,000 yuan. The cheapest red wine I ever drank was also more than 100,000 yuan a bottle. Who didn't address me as Mr. Shin when they saw me? Su Miao was like hearing a joke. Shinsu, do you think I just met you today? A person who can't even gather enough tuition fees dreams all day long that he's a domineering CEO, enjoying delicious food and a good life. Are you crazy? There was a burst of laughter all around. This finally woke Shinsu up from the luxurious life in the previous life. He had been reborn for a month already. He had chosen a path completely different from the previous life. What's going on? I came here to watch the sweet campus love between the male and female protagonists. Why has it become watching them quarrel every day? Without money, where can there be any sweet love for you to watch? Shinsu looked up at the door irritably and suddenly noticed me. Instantly, he straightened his back. the frown between his eyebrows relaxed. He put on a confident smile. There was a hint of expectation in his eyes as he looked at me. 16. I admired my newly done manicure and leisurely walked past Shinsu. The rhinestones inlaid on it cost 2,000 yuan each. The luster was a bit poor. Next time, I should choose some more beautiful diamonds. Then I lazily glanced at the food in the cafeteria and frowned in disgust. I called out to Su Xiaoyu, "Let's go eat outside the school." Su Xiaoyu quickly nodded. I directly passed by Shinsu and walked out of the cafeteria without looking sideways. The confidence on Shinsu's face crumbled. After I walked away, he actually left Su Miao Miao behind and chased after me, shouting, "Jiangji, why don't you?" The remaining words were suddenly choked back in his throat when he caught a glimpse of the Maybach outside the cafeteria. The luxury car was ostentatiously parked on the path that must be taken to the cafeteria. Many classmates cast envious glances. They whispered softly, some envied the luxury of the car, and some complained that I was rich and willful. Shinsu laughed and sighed, "So, you wanted to give me a surprise, but I don't like being so high profile. Don't do this again next time." I remember that in the previous life, the male protagonist drove this car to find his little childhood sweetheart and then died in a car accident. Yes, in the previous life. This car was given to the male protagonist after graduation, unexpectedly. In this life, the female supporting character took it out earlier. Our male protagonist will always belong to the female protagonist. How could he be swayed by a luxury car? Next, it's the glorious moment of slapping in the face. Shinsu obviously loved this car very much. In the previous life, he had driven it on the streets of Haicheng countless times, attracting the attention of many people. He naturally opened the car door. The butler in the driver's seat glared at him and scolded. "This car was given by our young lady to young Master Su. Why does everyone want to climb up the social ladder and try to get in it?" 17. Shinsu's hand stopped in midair as if he had been electrocuted, lowering his eyebrows and eyes. The domineering CEO aura that had dissipated for half a month gathered again. "Uncle Wang, this car clearly belongs to me. Don't you even remember that?" His voice was pressed very low. "In the previous life, this car was his, but in this life," I sneered. Quickly opened the car door, and got in with Su Xiaoyu. Then I slammed the door shut. Shinsu quickly withdrew his hand, almost having 4 of his fingers pinched off. Looking at him up and down with disdain through the car window, I said, "Shinsu, you should really change your bad habit of coveting other people's things. This car was given by me to my boyfriend. What does it have to do with you?" In Shinsu's eyes, I have always been an arrogant young lady, naturally. I speak arrogantly and without mercy. The joy that had just risen in Shinsu was shattered to pieces. He looked at me with frightened eyes. "Wasn't this car supposed to be given to me? I drove it for a full 2 years in the previous life." 18. His voice was very soft, but I heard it clearly. He has been reborn for so long. Is he still thinking about the previous life? The previous life that he despised had become like a flower in the mirror and the moon in the water in this life. And he could never retrieve it again. The bullet comments were also stunned. What's going on? It seems that the female supporting character doesn't love the male protagonist at all. The male protagonist was reborn in vain. I originally wanted to watch the sweet love between the male and female protagonists. Goodness, they just confessed their feelings half a month ago, but they have already quarreled 15 times. I also wanted to see the male protagonist slap the female supporting character in the face for her entanglement. But who would have thought that I'd been watching the male protagonist being slapped in the face instead? You all say that Miss Jiang is pestering Shinsu persistently, but in my opinion, it's clearly the male protagonist who is pestering the female supporting character. I shifted my gaze away from the bullet comments. I am the young lady of the Jiang family. I grew up with a golden spoon in my mouth. How could I possibly pester a worthless man? Since Shinsu thinks that not confessing and being together with his childhood sweetheart in the previous life was a regret in his life, then in this life of being reborn, let him completely fulfill that regret. The car stepped on the accelerator and rushed out. Looking from a distance, I saw Su Miao Miao pulling the male protagonist's collar and making a big scene with him. And Shinsu was still staring blankly at the car exhaust, letting the other party curse and tear at him. I retracted my gaze, took out my makeup mirror, and complained while touching up my makeup, "Uncle Wang, it's too ostentatious to drive the car into the school. If this happens a few more times, the school leaders will come to talk to me." Uncle Wang quickly nodded. Okay, next time I'll wait at the school gate." "Young lady, after all, you don't have a boyfriend now. Why don't you consider what the master mentioned before about the marriage alliance and engagement with the Su family tonight?" 19. Sitting in the private room of the bar, I looked down at Su Xiaoyu in front of me. On the way here, I impatiently declined. not wanting to have a marriage alliance with a stranger. Uncle Wang was surprised and said, "It's not a stranger, you've been with young Master Su of the Su family for so long." When saying this, Su Xiaoyu curled up in the back seat of the car, shrinking himself into a quail. "For people in our social circle, a marriage alliance is a certainty. It has nothing to do with love, it's just to tie the businesses of the two families together and increase the strength to resist risks." On my WeChat on the phone, there was still a message from my dad. "My dear daughter, I'm relieved to see that you're getting along so well with young Master Su of the Su family. If it's appropriate, get engaged first. If it's not suitable, immediately change to the next one until you're satisfied." At this moment, I felt like a decadent young lady, casually choosing a male companion who suits my fancy. "My life is really dissipated," Su Xiaoyu explained to me nervously. "Xiaoji, I just heard that you wanted to date a poor student, so I dressed a bit shabbily, but I hadn't done anything yet. Just as I found you in the crowd, you suddenly stuffed a black card into my arms and asked me to be your boyfriend. I didn't expect that happiness would come so suddenly." He said that he applied to the same university as me just to confess the love that had been buried in his heart for many years. He just didn't expect that I generously kept him first, although the process was a bit different. "But as long as the result is right, it's okay." My tone was stern. "So, now that you're so rich, we've been using my black card for all our food, drinks, and entertainment," he quickly explained. "No, I haven't touched a single cent of that black card. When you gave it to me, you didn't tell me the password." Didn't I tell him the password? I awkwardly stretched out 2 fingers to take the black card, and then smiled sheepishly and put it back in my bag. The bullet comments had already exploded. They scrolled so densely that there was no gap. Why has the plot changed so much in this life of being reborn? I remember that there was also the matter of the marriage alliance in the previous life. But didn't Jiangji reject the matter of the marriage alliance on the spot by using the excuse that she already had a boyfriend? Didn't the female supporting character like the male protagonist, who on Earth still can't see clearly? In this life, Jiangji clearly has never liked the male protagonist. A waiter pushed open the door of the private room with drinks in hand, breaking the awkward atmosphere in the room. Our eyes met. The drinks spilled all over the floor. The other party was first shocked, and then became furious out of embarrassment. "Jiangji, why are you here with a man all alone?" 20. Shinsu, wearing a burgundy vest, appeared in front of the private room door. The part-time job that the bullet comments said he found was to serve drinks and water to customers in the bar. Shinsu's face was livid, and his eyes swept back and forth between the two of us several times. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. "Why are you alone with him?" I broke free from his grip. "This is my fiancé. If I'm not with him, am I supposed to be with you? Both the Jiang family and the Su family know that we are already together. Everyone is happy to see it happen." Shinsu was stunned by the word fiancé. In the dim private room, his pale face couldn't be hidden. After a long while, he let out all his strength and gave a bitter laugh. "Jiangji, I know that you're with him to make me angry. After starting over, I still have to get entangled with you in the end." He turned his face away and said with great difficulty, "You won. You really won. I promise you, I'll be your boyfriend." 21. Wait a minute, I interrupted. "Did I ask you anything? You shamelessly agreed first." Shinsu closed his eyes, as if he had made a great determination, and revealed everything. "Do you know, I was reborn. In the previous life, you took out a black card and asked me to be your boyfriend. And you also gave my mom 1 million yuan for her medical treatment. Even that Maybach was a gift you gave me. We were together for 6 years. You have an arrogant temper, but I've always been tolerating you, although I always missed Su Miao Miao in the previous life. This rebirth made me recognize my own heart. I still love you." Shinsu probably didn't realize that there was a kind of nostalgia in his tone that he couldn't detect himself. The male protagonist's love relationship has really brought him a lot of benefits. Can I get so many benefits from a relationship? Young lady, you might as well take a look at me. Don't be so strict about gender. After all, after going through those days of being short of money, the male protagonist misses the good days when the female supporting character was there in the previous life. I suddenly found that the female supporting character is so clear-headed. In the previous life, when she was in a relationship with the male protagonist, she only gave him money when he was obedient and would never mindlessly offer up her family property and resources. In this life, as soon as the male protagonist confessed to someone else, the female supporting character immediately let go of her feelings and never looked back. The last sentence made me suddenly understand. It turned out that what Shinsu had been brooding over in the previous life was that I didn't hand over all of the Jiang family's property. In his thinking, I should be gentle and submissive, offer up all of the Jiang family's wealth with both hands, and then become a woman who lives at his mercy. I'm just overbearing and arrogant, not brainless. People who are of the same social status as me don't even dare to covet my wealth. But Shinsu regarded it as something in his pocket. If he couldn't get it, he hated it to the core. I haven't even thought about my dad's property yet. How can it be his turn to covet it? The atmosphere in the private room was a bit dull. Su Xiaoyu hesitated and stood up, interjecting. I know that the standard configuration for getting the upper hand is a father who is addicted to gambling, a mother who is seriously ill, a sister who is studying, and a broken him. But I didn't expect that it has now become so competitive that it's a competition of metaphysics. He turned his head towards me and said pitifully, Xiaoji, I don't have such a tragic background. My parents are still alive, and my sister is studying well abroad. I'm not reborn either and don't have the blessing of metaphysics buffs. Do you think I still have a chance to get the upper hand? 22, there is a chance. I patted him on the shoulder seriously and told him, in the end. Shinsu was dragged away by several security guards. Before leaving, he was still shouting, Jiangji, the person you love the most is clearly me. You shouldn't have found someone else. We were really together in the previous life. After confirming the partner for the marriage alliance, the two families immediately held an engagement banquet for us. My dad arranged for me to study abroad and major in finance. Before we parted, he held my hand reluctantly. My dear daughter, since you're in a marriage alliance, you can't just fool around in a random university anymore. You have to study finance well. In the future, the Jiang family's business will still depend on you. I tentatively made a small request. Dad, can you give me some money? Just a small goal will do. Get out. I knew it. I haven't even thought about my dad's property yet. How can Shinsu even think of laying his hands on it? On the day I left, Lin Pan cried her eyes out. Young lady, how am I going to live without you? I planned to serve you and the young master until you graduated from university. Woo-woo. I paid your tuition fees for you and left you a sum of living expenses. Don't go out looking shabby and embarrassing me in the future. Young lady, I really don't want you to leave. Haha, I will definitely pay you back when I graduate. By the way, I will miss you every day. Haha, stop crying, the laughter is too harsh. On the day I carried my luggage and boarded the plane, the bullet comments that had been quiet for a long time started scrolling non-stop again. Shinsu is going crazy looking for Jiangji. Is he looking for the female supporting character? He's looking for a cash cow. Look, he still remembers Jiangji's phone number from the previous life and is going to call her. I looked down at my phone. I was about to go abroad. Naturally, I should change my old phone number. 23. Shinsu anxiously waited downstairs of the dormitory for several days. Now there were holes everywhere that needed money, and the medical expenses in the hospital couldn't be delayed any longer. After thinking for a long time, he came up with a solution. He could take the initiative to borrow money from Jiangji. Logically speaking, Jiangji would definitely take this opportunity to propose that the two of them start a relationship. After all, in the previous life, when she learned that he didn't have the money to pay his tuition fees, Jiangji generously took out a black card and asked with a gentle smile, Student Shen, I can sponsor your tuition fees and living expenses, but you have to agree to be my boyfriend. Is that okay? Shinsu clenched his fists. This time, if Jiangji made such a request again, he would definitely agree without hesitation. But after waiting for several days, he didn't see Jiangji's figure, until the impatient Lin Pan told him, Stop waiting. The day after Jiangji and Su Xiaoyu got engaged, she went abroad to study and won't be coming back. Shinsu's ears rang. Engaged, studying abroad. In the previous life, she wasn't engaged, and going abroad was out of the question. They were together for a full 6 years, going through university and losing their innocence. He just confessed his love to Su Miao Miao on the first day after being reborn. How could there be such a big change between the previous life and this life? Shinsu trembled and took out his phone, entering a phone number that he knew by heart. The moment the phone was dialed, a mechanical female voice came, interrupting his thoughts. Sorry, the number you dialed does not exist. 24. Shinsu stood there in a daze. Jiangji's number doesn't exist. He looked at the phone number carefully again. There was no mistake. These were the numbers that had been imprinted in his mind for 6 years in the previous life. In this life, it had become a non-existent number. Shinsu stood there in a daze for a long time, so long that Su Miao Miao behind him pushed him hard. Shinsu, pay me back the money. You still haven't paid me back the 280 yuan for the meal you owe me. The little childhood sweetheart in front of him was harsh and mean, without the slightest bit of the gentle appearance from the previous life. Shinsu wearily rubbed the center of his eyebrows. If on the day he was reborn, he was still filled with the joy of his little childhood sweetheart, Then after more than a month of the oppression of the cruel reality, there was only Jiangji left in his heart. Now, he only had a little over 1,000 yuan left on him. It was earned from his part-time job in the bar. This little money wasn't even enough to pay the medical expenses. Shensu was just about to open his mouth and say to postpone it for a few days when a man suddenly grabbed his collar. Damn it. Pay back my girlfriend's money quickly. Shensu's head buzzed again. Jiangji said she had a fiancé. Now it turned out that Su Miao had also found a boyfriend. Everything in this world seemed to have pressed the fast-forward button, and it was incredibly fast. He glanced at the man in front of him and miraculously found that this man was the same as the one in the wedding photo that Su Miao shared in the group in the previous life. In this life, because Su Miao went out to work due to lack of money, she actually met this man 4 years earlier. Going around in circles, his rebirth had made Jiangji and Su Miao meet their lovers earlier. 25. After dejectedly taking out all the money he had on him, Su Miao snorted coldly and then took the other man's arm and left. His phone rang. Shensu excitedly took it out. After finding that it wasn't Jiangji's number, he answered it dejectedly. An old woman's voice came. Xiaoxiu. The hospital is urging me to pay the medical expenses. You have to think of a way quickly. Irritation welled up in his heart, tearing at his heart that was on the verge of breaking. All the troublesome things since he was reborn were overwhelming him. Shensu angrily scolded into the phone. If you don't have money, can't you think of a way yourself? Other people's parents support their children. Why do you always follow me and ask for money? Look at Jiangji. Her parents give her hundreds of thousands of yuan in pocket money every month. What about you? On the phone. There came suppressed crying and endless nagging. I'm really unlucky. I raised such an unfilial son. He hasn't come to visit me in the hospital for more than a month and hasn't given me a single penny either. Shensu hung up the phone decisively. Then he scanned a shared bicycle. On the way, he kept comforting himself. Jiangji must still have feelings for him. It's impossible for her to get engaged and go abroad without saying a word. She might be angry about his confession to Su Miao. So she's hiding. As long as he can find her, offer her a way out, and say a few soft words, this life will repeat the path of the previous life. They will still be together. As long as he becomes Jiangji's boyfriend, he will never have to worry about money again. Shensu knew the location of Jiangji's luxury mansion like the back of his hand. In the previous life, he had lived there for 2 years and was familiar with every flower and tree, but in this life. The butler stopped him with a wary look. This is a private residence. You can't enter casually. In a hurry, Shensu mixed up the previous life and this life. I'm Jiangji's boyfriend. I lived here for 2 years. Don't you remember me? The butler looked him up and down and sneered. You didn't even find out the details before trying to climb up the social ladder. Our young lady just got engaged to young Master Su of the Su family. Now the two of them have gone abroad to study. Where did this so-called boyfriend come from? Engaged, gone abroad. Shensu felt a chill run through his blood. Could it be that Jiangji really left without saying goodbye? Didn't she love him anymore? The phone rang again abruptly, ringing persistently. It was a strange number. Shensu's eyes lit up. After tremblingly answering the call, he slowly slumped to the ground powerlessly. A cold female voice came from the phone. Mr. Shen, your mother's medicine has been stopped. Please quickly make up the outstanding medical expenses. 26. The days of studying abroad passed by quickly. Shensu was like an unimportant passerby in my life. He appeared with great fanfare and disappeared quietly, but I knew very clearly about him in these past few years. The bullet comments would always report his recent situation from time to time, trying to make their presence felt in my colorful life. The little childhood sweetheart he had been longing for in the previous life broke up with him resolutely, going around in circles. She actually met her lover from the previous life again, and the two of them were having a passionate relationship. His mother passed away soon because they couldn't raise enough money for her medical treatment. Before she died, she was still cursing in the hospital, calling him an ungrateful son. Only Shensu was left alone. He had changed from a young master who never had to do any housework to a model worker who took on 3 part-time jobs during his spare time. Even so, he was still short of money. The huge debt was weighing him down and making it hard for him to breathe. In the second year of university, Shensu chose to drop out. He began a long and exhausting struggle. While working part-time, he didn't forget to inquire about my whereabouts. Unfortunately, we were thousands of miles apart. The cost of the long-distance travel and the living expenses in a foreign country were not something he could save up by working part-time. It wasn't until 4 years later that I completed my studies. On the first day I returned to the country after studying abroad, looking at the long-missed Haicheng, I received a call from Lin Pan. Young lady, the school is organizing a class reunion. do you want to come? 27. Lin Pan had already gotten rid of her former skinny and sallow appearance. She had become a capable professional woman, training in one of my domestic branch companies. She exaggeratedly stepped forward and hugged me, excitedly saying, "Young lady, I haven't seen you for several years. Do you know how much I've missed you? Young lady, why are you frowning? If you have any troubles, tell me, and this servant will share them with you." I rubbed my head. The company has business abroad, but currently we can't find a suitable person to stay there for a long time. Lin Pan perked up and recommended herself. What a coincidence, I'm the chosen one for the overseas assignment. Then I remembered that Lin Pan had told me before. After her parents and younger brother learned that she had entered a big company, they chased after her every day, trying to find ways to ask for money. In order to avoid them, Lin Pan hadn't been home for several years. Looking at it this way, wasn't she the perfect candidate for the overseas assignment? After solving my biggest worry, I finally let out a long sigh of relief. I didn't have much contact with these classmates. The only person I was familiar with in the whole class was Lin Pan. Just before the class reunion started, someone arrived late. He pushed the door open, looking travel-worn. Shinsu was here, 28. Shinsu and I were just in the same department, not really in the same class. His sudden intrusion was a bit unexpected. Curious eyes gathered on him. I could hardly recognize him. He was now about the same age as when he died in a car accident in the previous life. I especially remembered that the bullet comments had said that he had lived a comfortable life in the previous life and had never done a day's work. His every move was full of elegant nobility. It was hard to associate him with the tired young man in front of me. The bullet comments that had disappeared for a long time began to scroll. I almost didn't recognize the male protagonist, upstairs. This isn't the male protagonist anymore. He's a supporting male character. No, he's not even a supporting male character. He should be an extra. You can tell that Shinsu is really poor. It's been almost 6 years since he was reborn. His entrepreneurial attempts have all failed. He always shouts that he used to be Mr. Shen and has been fired countless times. How could he not be poor, even in this situation? He still cares about food and drink. He often mutters that he used to eat delicious delicacies. I couldn't imagine how poor he was. Maybe, probably, he could only huddle in a cramped duplex apartment of over 100 square meters, eating plain meals of 4 dishes and 1 soup every day, and then standing on the terrace with a worried face, overlooking the splendid river view. Thinking about it, he really had a miserable life. Shinsu had obviously taken care of his appearance carefully. But the frown lines between his eyebrows revealed his frequent anxiety. He hardly dared to look up at me, but he still mustered up the courage to step forward and said softly, "Jiangji, I heard that there was a class reunion in your class and that you would also be here, so I wanted to come and see you. How have you been these years?" 29. The people at the class reunion were mostly those I wasn't very familiar with. I stood up and politely bid farewell to everyone, and left bypassing Shinsu. He refused to give up and chased after me. It was raining heavily outside the hotel. I stood on the roadside holding an umbrella. Shinsu stood in the rain, looking disheveled. His lips moved several times before he opened his mouth. Knowing the answer but still holding on to a glimmer of hope, he tentatively asked me, "Jiangji, do you still love me?" I turned my head and smiled distantly. "Mr. Shen, you might as well think carefully. It seems that we have never really known each other, so how can we talk about love or not, as you wished? In this life, you didn't take that initial black card, and I have never had any interaction with you. From beginning to end, we were strangers." After I gave a definite answer, a few bullet comments appeared in the sky, but they were getting fainter and fainter. It was a precursor to disappearing completely. In fact, the young lady has never been someone who is obsessed with love, even in the previous life. She wasn't stupid enough to sacrifice any core interests. Can the young lady imagine what kind of life Shinsu is living now? Surely she can. That was close. He almost got to live a life of relying on a woman while acting arrogantly. After being reborn, Shinsu has finally lived the life he should have lived. 30. The bullet comments disappeared completely. Shinsu in front of me visibly became desperate. He covered his head, in great pain. "I was wrong. The moment I was reborn, before you had even said a word to me, I severed the fate between us. Xiaoji, I called you Xiaoji for a full 6 years in the previous life. How could it have become like this? How could I have lost the most important person in my life? Xiaoji, do you know, I've always wanted to go abroad to find you, but all these years I've been working desperately. Yet I still can't save enough money for a round-trip ticket abroad and the living expenses for half a year in a foreign country. Clearly, in the previous life, this amount of money was just the cost of a bottle of red wine. How could it? It was hard to tell whether the liquid flowing down his face was rain or tears. A car headlight flashed in this direction. A Maybach stopped beside me. The car door opened, and Su Xiaoyu got out of the car holding an umbrella. After taking the Hermes Birkin bag from my hand, he glanced behind me and said in surprise, "Xiaoji, isn't this the broken guy who was reborn? Has the version of trying to get the upper hand been updated to performing a bitter trick in the rain?" He drooped his eyebrows and eyes. "Xiaoji, I don't have a broken family or the blessing of metaphysics, but I can also perform an impromptu bitter trick on the spot." The black card that Shinsu couldn't wait to push away when he was reborn in the previous life, it had brought about the wonderful fate between me and Su Xiaoyu in this life. I smiled and teased, "You can get the upper hand without performing a bitter trick." 31 Epilogue. Shinsu, I learned the news of Jiangji's marriage from the news. When I heard this news, I was huddled in the cramped rented attic, aimlessly scrolling through my phone. There were piles of takeout boxes and beverage bottles beside me. These cheap junk foods that I wouldn't even look at in the previous life had become my 3 meals a day to sustain my life. Jiangji's beaming face suddenly appeared in front of me. She was still the radiant young lady of the Jiang family, and her every move exuded an undeniable nobility and ease. It was clearly written in the news. She was about to marry the young master of the Su family. The second project jointly developed by the two families would also be launched soon. I stared at Jiangji's smiling face, lost in thought. There was a huge gap between our social classes. A bag she casually bought cost more than I could save in 10 years of working part-time on the streets of Haicheng. We were almost unlikely to meet again. The most despairing thing was that if I wanted to get news about her, I could only do so through the news. In these years since I was reborn, it wasn't that I hadn't thought about starting a business. I found several bosses who had cooperated with me when I was successful in starting a business in the previous life, but they all firmly turned me away. Only one boss, after listening to my vow that I could make money, impatiently showed me the way. "Mr. Shin, anyone can make money from this business, so, who do you think is the most suitable person to do it?" I suddenly realized, in the previous life, my business startup was so smooth not because I was intelligent or a business prodigy, it was because I had the backing of the Jiang family. It was Jiangji who paved the way for me behind the scenes. What did I do at that time? I always put up a defensive front, trying to hide my deep-seated inferiority complex. In those years when I tolerated her young lady's temper, wasn't she also carefully protecting my self-esteem in every way? I took one last look at Jiangji's wedding news. A bold idea came to my mind. I was going to stop her wedding. This idea made my blood boil. Perhaps she would suddenly remember me and fall in love with me. Perhaps I could still go back to the love we had in the previous life. 32 Epilogue. Shinsu. The car sped down the street. This was a second-hand car that I had bought by living frugally. It cost more than 30,000 yuan. It had emptied my savings that I had accumulated over a year. It was far less comfortable than the Maybach in the previous life. When that Maybach flashed through my mind, I was suddenly shocked. The scene today seemed to overlap with that in the previous life. In the previous life, I was standing on the terrace of the Jiang family's villa and learned from the classmate group that Su Miao was going to get married. I was also so crazy and impulsive like this. The Maybach was speeding on the road, with the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor. At that time, I only had one thought in my mind. That was to stop Su Miao's wedding. I instinctively glanced at the time, March 18th, the day Su Miao got married in the previous life. It was also the day Jiangji was getting married in this life. In an instant, my blood turned cold. Bang. Distracted for just a few seconds, the car veered off course and crashed hard into the guardrail. In the moment before losing consciousness, I actually showed a relieved smile. If I could be reborn to the age of 18 again, the first thing I would do when I opened my eyes was to take the black card. When Jiangji asked me if I was willing to be her boyfriend, I would hug her tightly and then loudly declare, "Jiangji, I do." 33 Epilogue. Shinsu. When I woke up again, the first thing I saw was the white ceiling. There was also the pungent smell of disinfectant. I struggled to sit up. There was no Jiangji, and no school either. I grabbed the white coat beside me and asked anxiously, "Doctor, have I been reborn?" "What's the date today?" The doctor looked at me with a complicated expression and then said to the nurse behind him, "Take him for another CT scan." He hit his head on the steering wheel, and there might be a blood clot pressing on his brain, causing confusion. My face was reflected in the smooth surface of the instrument, young, but with a look of weariness and vicissitudes. This was me, with nothing to my name. I dejectedly picked up the broken screen phone beside me. Jiangji's wedding had been reposted all over the internet. Everyone was sighing with emotion that this luxurious wedding of the century exuded an air of having plenty of money in every detail. What's more, they were amazed that there was actually true love in this wealthy family marriage alliance. During the years when Jiangji was studying abroad, her fiancé, who was not in the same country as her, would fly to Europe twice a month. Without fail, there was a thick stack of airplane tickets. They had become a testament to their love. I put down the phone dejectedly. Jiangji was married, Su Miao was also married, and she married the same person as in the previous life, only I was left behind, confused and at a loss. It was absolutely impossible for such an heir to appear on a poor young man. Just like that, I unexpectedly met Jiangji in the hospital. She was wearing a low-key Chanel suit and holding her husband's arm. She was shining brightly in the crowd. I hobbled forward on crutches and shouted behind her, "Jiangji." She turned around. I was so expectant that I hardly dared to blink, for fear of missing any expression on her face. Her eyes lingered on me for a moment, then she thought about it in confusion and turned her head away. She didn't recognize me. The 6 years when we were in love. The 6 years when I was successful and indulged in a life of luxury. Now, I was the only one who still remembered. Story 2. Before I turned 16, I was the pampered daughter of the Song family, adored by my parents and favored by my brother, living a carefree life. However, everything changed when Songru came to us with a DNA test proving that a nurse had switched us at birth. She was the real heiress, and I was merely an interloper in the nest. I had thought about leaving, but my biological parents had already passed away, and Mrs. Song couldn't bear to see me orphaned, so she formally adopted me. My adoptive parents treated me well, my brother didn't neglect me, and Songru never made things difficult for me. I was grateful, but later, Songru got into a dispute with a fellow actor backstage at a drama set, and during the argument, the actor fell down the stairs and became vegetative. There were no cameras, someone had to take the blame, and I, who had witnessed everything, was there. With tears, my adoptive mother approached me, begging me to take the blame for Songru. Songru knelt before me, banging her head on the ground and slapping her own face, apologizing to me. The family was heartbroken, so, I nodded. I took the blame, went to prison, and suffered greatly. At first, the Song family would visit me, tears of guilt or apology in their eyes, but gradually, the visits stopped. Once, during a prison event, the warden asked about our plans after release. I thought long and hard before writing down sincerely, "After I'm released, I want to see my parents." A fellow inmate laughed at the simplicity of my wish. "Your parents will definitely come to pick you up. How could you not see them?" I just smiled and said nothing. But when I was actually released, no one came, only Mr. Song's assistant took me to the airport and handed me a large sum of money. He said nothing, but I understood everything. My parents didn't want me anymore. The Song family had abandoned me. I didn't take the money. It wasn't about being noble. I just didn't want to owe anything to the Song family anymore. The Song family had raised me for over 20 years, and I had served 5 years in prison for their daughter. We were even. I rented a place, wore out my shoes looking for a job that didn't mind my criminal record, but after just half a month, I was fired. After much questioning, the manager finally admitted hesitantly, "You've upset someone you shouldn't have." I was stunned and speechless. Who else could it be but the Song family? That day, I walked the streets with my bag in the drizzling, cool rain, my face and body wet with the drizzle. As I passed by the central square, Songru's live broadcast was playing on the big screen. I stopped and looked up. On the award stage, she was radiantly beautiful, joyously showcasing her glamour. The camera panned to Mr. and Mrs. Song, their eyes brimming with tears as they looked at her. It was as if they were gazing at a rare treasure, their eyes filled with love, for some reason. I suddenly remembered the first visit in prison, when my adoptive mother, seeing how gaunt I had become, tearfully promised me, "After you are released from prison, Mom will take care of you for the rest of your life. Mom loves you." But when I saw her for the last time 2 years ago, all that was left in her expression was a faint sense of guilt. She said, "Tang Yin, Ru is getting engaged to He Wenjin. She really likes him. After you get out of prison, could you leave this place to avoid the He family discovering the past?" He Wenjin, the crown prince of the He family. There are TVs in prison, and occasionally I hear about the deep love between Songru and He Wenjin. Everyone says that He Wenjin, a well-known playboy in the circle, settled down for Songru. He stepped into the entertainment industry, which he once scorned, to pave the way for her, connect her with resources, and personally present her with awards. I sometimes envy Songru. Envy her for having loving parents and a devoted boyfriend. In just over 20 years, she has reaped both career and love. Not like me, no parents, no career, no lover, also, no one to love. As for marrying He Wenjin, that was an accident. After being fired, I returned to my hometown and worked as a waitress in a restaurant. It was busy. I was serving beer to a customer when a drunk man, handsy and rude, made me frown and slap him. Enraged, he kicked me to the ground. Food and beer spilled all over me. It burned. The man, still not pacified and cursing, was about to strike again, but suddenly he fell silent. I opened my eyes to meet his bright, starry eyes. He winked and gave a lazy, insincere smile. Song Tangin, so you really are here. I got up, shook off the food scraps from my clothes, nodded at him, and tried to walk away, but after just a few steps, I heard his voice from behind, seeing you so miserable. How about marrying me? I turned around in astonishment. Have you finally gone mad? Serious, he winked and eyed me, his gaze dark and emotionless, but his words were earnest. To tell you the truth, your sister dumped me, and I'm in a foul mood, and you've been pushed to this point by the Song family. We might as well be called a league of victims. The street lamp flickered twice and then went out. I couldn't see his face clearly, only heard him scoff, the tip of his cigarette glowing red. Since you have nothing now, marrying me isn't a loss for you. What's there to fear? I thought about it, didn't say a word. He just quietly waited for me, until a cool breeze blew, making me shiver instinctively. He went and took off his high-end custom coat and draped it over my shoulders. In an instant, all I could smell was the faint scent of his tobacco. I said, okay. When the news of our marriage spread, everyone was shocked. They all said that he went and married me just to spite Song Ru. At the wedding, when he went and said he was willing, I noticed that Song Ru was crying under the stage, losing her composure as she left the scene. I glanced at the man, but he just smiled and didn't even look her way. It was as if he had never loved, as if he truly didn't care. After the wedding, he went and treated me very well. He arranged a secretarial job for me so that we were together all the time. When I asked him why, he just laughed it off lightly. I can't trust leaving a beautiful woman like you at home alone. Afraid that some thief might steal you away. If that happened, wouldn't I be at a great loss? I chided him for not being serious, and I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. During the years I was in prison, I suffered a lot, and my body couldn't withstand any more hardships. A common cold or cough that might be minor to others could turn into a severe illness for me. He went and hired renowned doctors to treat me, and I got somewhat better. By my sickbed, he held my hand, earnest and devout. Song Tangin, I bought you. Your life is mine. You can't die before me. Childish words, but seeing the faint bitterness in his eyes, I ultimately nodded. I didn't understand why he was hurt, but I had long since learned not to ask, not to disturb. All right. Until death do us part. But in the end, the one who didn't keep the promise wasn't me. It was he Wenjin. Madam, he passed away at 3 a.m. yesterday due to a major car accident, and efforts to save him were unsuccessful. Please accept our condolences. Pushing open the morgue door, his parents were already crying inconsolably. Looking at He Wenjin's pale, lifeless face, I thought to myself, heaven favored him, giving him an enviable family background, looks, and capabilities. But why did it stingily grant him only 34 years? What a pity, what a pity. I personally handled He Wenjin's funeral. Throughout the 5 years of our marriage, many people never had high hopes for our union. Song Ru, out of love turned bitter, was always waiting to see my downfall. Yet, no one expected that He Wenjin would leave all his assets and shares to me. The He family had no objections. Only, when they left, their backs were hunched. No longer possessing their former vitality, a week later, Chen, He Wenjin's lawyer, brought me the inheritance transfer documents, and as he was leaving, he handed me a voice recorder. This was Mr. He's belonging. It has been repaired, and I think you might need it. Song Tangin. In the voice recorder, the man's voice was clear yet husky, tinged with a bit of static, making it raspier. I didn't marry you because I was trying to spite Song Ru. I married you because I liked you. I was stunned for a moment, yet my heart remained calm, as if I had anticipated this. He Wenjin chuckled softly. Perhaps you've forgotten, but we've met before. Back then, you were the untouchable heroine of the school, extremely intelligent, the teacher's favorite, and my mentor would always talk about you. Every time he finished chatting with your teacher, he would come to me, puffed up with anger, and say, He Wenjin, I'm annoyed with you now. Stay away from me. He imitated his mentor's tone, sounding especially endearing. I chuckled subconsciously, but the next moment, I slowly reined it in. He Wenjin continued, I used to dislike you, yet I couldn't help but keep my eyes on you. It's like I had a bit of a masochistic streak. Haha, but then, you ended up in jail for what they called intentional injury. I didn't believe it. I had to investigate it myself, but unfortunately, the Song family had cleaned up all the evidence so thoroughly, so, I turned my attention to Song Ru. It turns out, the love story between He Wenjin and Song-ru, which everyone talked about, was merely an excuse he used to uncover the truth behind my imprisonment. What He Wenjin didn't expect was that Song-ru was tight-lipped, but eventually, he still found some traces. I suddenly remember, before we got married, He Wenjin once asked me excitedly, "Ian, do you want revenge?" "No," I shook my head, "it's all settled." Years later, I finally understand, that day he must have discovered the truth. He sought the truth for me, and for me, he kept that truth hidden. It turns out, it was all because of me. The emotions in my eyes violently trembled, my whole body couldn't stop shaking, and tears fell drop by drop. 07. But speaking of which, my acting must have been very, very good, so I deceived everyone, including you. Do you know how adorable your expression and eyes were when I asked you to marry me? Never mind. I've spoken too much again. Actually, I've always wanted to ask you. He Wenjin coughed, his usual pride replaced by a rare shyness of a young man. Song Tangin, can I, perhaps, also have a moment to like me? In this lifetime, I might not hear it, but in the next life, when I come to find you, you can tell me then. With the screeching of a sudden break and the noisy screams of the crowd, I clearly heard his last words. He said, Song Tangin, I really, really, really like you a lot. His tone even carried a hint of laughter. The suppressed emotion suddenly collapsed at that moment. In the empty living room, there were lilies that He Wenjin had brought home a few days ago still on the table. I've always liked lilies. He presented them to me as if offering a treasure. Ian, do they smell nice? I picked them out one by one just for you. Ian, from now on, I'll take care of replacing the flowers at home. At that time, the subtle laughter in his eyes, like gentle starlight. How could I say no? But the one who made the promise, lied. He left first, and took away the last vitality of the lilies. The warm sun shone through the floor-to-ceiling windows onto my shoulder. I reached out to touch it, but it only felt cold. To this day, I finally glimpsed the vast and secret love that He Wenjin hid beneath the ice. But, it seems too late. 08, Lawyer Chen met Mrs. He again a week later. He came to pick up the inheritance transfer document. He had followed He Wenjin for many years and had seen Mrs. He many times. In his memory, Mrs. He was always dignified, gently smiling like a jade Buddha on a pedestal, coolly observing the world's tumult, neither happy, nor angry, nor moved. Even when she learned of He Wenjin's death, she was momentarily stunned, yet her eyes remained dry. He Wenjin had been so kind to her, yet, all he received from her was a single tear. Attorney Chen had once felt that He Wenjin deserved better, but this time, as soon as he entered the living room, he saw Mrs. He holding several bunches of wilted lilies, her complexion paler than the falling snow. Upon seeing him, she didn't even offer a courtesy smile, but stated coldly, Attorney Chen, donate his assets to the orphanage. I don't want them. There was no room for discussion. As he was leaving, Attorney Chen couldn't help but turn back and ask, Madam, did you ever love Mr. He, Mrs. He just smiled, but did not answer. Years later, Mrs. He became a philanthropist widely covered by the media. Having supported countless orphans, when he saw her again, it was at her bedside. She was only 45 years old, yet her hair was completely white. At that moment, she looked out the window as if she saw someone, her face showing a hint of girlish naivety, and she said, I always have. Ian, please save your sister. She's still so young. She shouldn't be going to jail. Sister, I really know I was wrong. I didn't mean it. I don't want to go to jail. I'm a big star. Going to jail would ruin my life. When I woke up from the darkness, what I heard were loud cries. My head was throbbing as I slowly opened my eyes to see everything clearly. Song-ru was kneeling on the ground, crying her heart out. Song's father was holding her, comforting her with tenderness, and Song's mother, gripping my hand tightly, her face covered in tears, her voice choked but very serious. Ian, would you go to jail for your sister? I silently looked at her, as if encouraging her. Song's mother gritted her teeth and said, Ian, there were no cameras at the scene, only you and Aru were present, and the paparazzi only captured a silhouette that can't be identified. Just admit that you accidentally pushed He Xiaoxiao. The police won't find out anything. Don't worry, once you're in prison, Mom will make sure everything is taken care of and you won't suffer. After you're released, the Song family will take care of you for life. She had said the same thing in my previous life, but that promise expired after just 1 year. After the guarantee expired, I was kicked out of a single room and, because of my looks, I suffered bullying and retaliation. Beatings, insults, even poisoning. It was unbearable. But no one saw me, until I was hospitalized due to nitrite poisoning from the food. Song's mother came to my bedside. That day, she looked down at me with an impatient expression. After all, it's a prison, not a resort. It's inevitable to suffer. Tangin, don't be so delicate. Aru is going abroad for a business trip soon. I'm worried and probably won't have time to visit you in the future. After that, I never saw her again, seeing Song's mother's tearful face now. I believed her words were sincere at the moment, but sincerity can change. My feelings of guilt and self-reproach eventually turned into a deeper fear as time passed. I gently pulled away from Mrs. Song's grasp and said, "No, I can't do this." Mrs. Song was taken aback, probably not expecting me, who she thought was as docile as a lamb, to refuse her. But when I spoke again, I was serious and resolute. "Mom, I appreciate that you raised me for 20 years. But I don't want to sacrifice my own life because of that. Call me selfish or an ingrate if you will, but I refuse to take the blame for her. This life, reborn, I am not here to repeat the same mistakes. In my previous life, He Wenjin saved me. This time, I am going to save myself, and then, I will walk cleanly and dignifiedly to He Wenjin's side." My refusal enraged Father Song, who scolded me for being ungrateful. Having enjoyed the benefits of the Song family for so many years yet unwilling to give anything in return, Mrs. Song and Song-ru cried bitterly, seeing that neither soft nor hard tactics worked on me. They worried I might flee, so, they locked me in a room. Only my brother, Song Chungri, remained silent throughout. Just like in my previous life, Mrs. Song took away my phone, not knowing that I had a spare. I turned on the spare phone. Yesterday's news that He Xiaoxiao was seriously injured and had become comatose was trending online. There were few clues. Only a paparazzi had captured a blurry photo of a figure from behind, and mentioned, Song Ru and her sister were alone with He Xiaoxiao for a while. The police were probably already on their way. As I flipped through the spare phone, I subconsciously dialed a number, seeing the familiar digits. I hesitated but ultimately did not make the call. Somehow, I felt afraid. Afraid that the person on the other end of the phone wouldn't be the one I knew, and more terrified that once I woke from this dream, I might never see him again. In my past life, after He Wenjin died, I regularly paid his phone bill. In the quiet of the night, I would text him, about everyday things or just to vent. I would always receive a reply, "Ian, I'm here." It was his automated response, set up before his death. How could someone be so cruel, cruelly holding on to my heart? Making me unable to forget him for 10, 20, 30 years, I got up and opened the curtains. The warm sun shone through the window, bringing a hint of coolness. I saw the police outside the door, and the secretive glance from Father Song. With trembling hands, I finally sent out a message, "He Wenjin, won't you come and save me?" Mrs. Song initially tried to stop me from facing the police, hoping to solidify the evidence against me, but I forcefully knocked on the door. Facing the police's questions, I ignored Mrs. Song's pleading looks and responded to each one. In my previous life, I was convicted because I confessed to the crime and even erased evidence of my alibi. But this time, I won't be so foolish. The supposed favor of the past 20-odd years had already been exhausted in my previous life. Not holding hatred is already my limit, and compared to my calm composure, Song-ru appeared even more panicked and guilty. Right and wrong are clear at a glance. When Song-ru was taken away, Song's mother cried hysterically, and Song's father, with a gloomy face, occasionally glanced at me with the eyes of someone who had just lost a daughter, wishing he could tear me to pieces. They both followed Song-ru as she left. I stood quietly, watching silently. Then, Song Chungri came to my side and said in a deep voice, "The Song family can't shelter you anymore. Ian, you should leave this place." I looked up at him, pausing for a second as my eyes met his reddened ones. "Don't you blame me?" Song Chungri paused, not answering directly but instead gazing distantly towards the direction of the police car. His voice was as light as a breeze. "Ian, you are also my sister." He had said the same thing in a past life. He had advised me not to take the blame. I asked him why, and he looked down at me, his gaze as soft as wind and rain, tender and pitying. "Because you are my sister, too, yet." I had ignored his advice before, but this time, I decided to listen to him. Song's mother and father probably hated me to the bone now. Staying would only add to the troubles. I said earnestly, "Brother, take care of yourself." Song Chungri slightly curved his lips, his voice raspy. "Ian, live well for yourself." I packed my belongings and left the Song house. Looking ahead, the wind blew, swirling fallen leaves around. At this moment, the sunlight fell on me, warm and comforting. Suddenly, a figure rushed in front of me, his voice frantic. "Song Tangin, you're okay, right?" I was startled for a moment. Looking up, the man was wearing a black shirt, his frame lean and tall, his eyes deep. He stood drowned in the morning sun, appearing as though he was standing in the light, his handsome face lazy and nonchalant. But at this moment, his face was slightly pale, and he looked at me anxiously, only relaxing when he saw I was unharmed. His gaze lingered on my suitcase for 2 seconds before he spoke again, hesitating. Song Tangin, did you run away from home? It was He Wenjin. To be precise, it was a much younger He Wenjin. Memories of the past quickly flashed through my mind. There were moments of him looking at me tenderly, him yawning lazily, him holding my hand as we stepped into marriage, all culminating in the evening we first met. He seemed relaxed but was actually tightly clenching his hand. He asked me, Song Tangin, would you marry me? At this moment, my heart thudded rapidly, and I couldn't bear to take my eyes off him, until he widened his eyes in panic, exclaiming, Song Tangin, why are you crying? Who has hurt you? Was I crying? Why would I be crying? Seeing him again, I should have been happy, but the emotions suppressed in my heart from a past life all turned into tears, streaming from my heart. I couldn't stop the tears, I cried, and He Wenjin just quietly stayed with me. After a long while, he pulled me into his embrace, his voice low and soft, with a hint of indulgent helplessness, as if cajoling a beloved child. He said, Ian, don't cry. Who has bullied you? Shall I avenge you? No. I clutched at his sleeve and shook my head. No revenge. In this life, I just want to be together with you properly. I don't want anything else. I followed He Wenjin back to his apartment. It was cold and empty. That was his style, in my previous life, after He Wenjin had passed away. I lived here for a long time. It was a way of remembering, and perhaps reminiscing. It's hard to explain. I was already familiar with the layout here, but I didn't notice that as I confidently walked into the depths, turned a corner, pushed open a door, and entered the bathroom, He Wenjin's gaze darkened for a moment, looking at my reflection in the mirror, my eyes red and swollen, my appearance disheveled. I sighed softly. Feeling somewhat embarrassed, I had resolved to face He Wenjin with dignity. Yet every encounter, I ended up looking so wretched, but it didn't matter. He Wenjin loved me so much, he wouldn't disdain me, never. That was the most certain and sure thing in my life. Stepping out of the bathroom, He Wenjin was leaning against the door waiting for me. He asked me, why are you crying? I candidly recounted everything that had happened just before. There was nothing to hide between us. After listening, He Wenjin was momentarily stunned. So, the Song family wants you to take the blame. I nodded, but I refused. This matter won't end so simply. Although He Xiaoxiao is severely injured and hasn't woken up, and there's no solid evidence, we can only wait for her to wake up to take the blame. Even though Song Ru is now considered a major suspect by the police, you are not without suspicion. As he spoke, his expression grew darker. I suddenly spoke up to interrupt him. He Wenjin, I'm a bit hungry. His gaze paused, then landed on me. Seeing my clear eyes without a hint of nervousness, he sighed helplessly. I'll cook. I nodded. In my previous life, I had a severe stomach condition, so He Wenjin specially learned to cook medicinal meals and cooked daily himself. He was very skilled. I had once thought he was born with cooking skills, but now, seeing the lumped noodles he served, I suddenly realized that He Wenjin, a privileged young master, had always been served by others. How could he have known how to cook from the start? He learned for me. It was always for me. I picked up the chopsticks and took a bite, quite salty, but He Wenjin looked at me expectantly. Is it good? His eyes twinkled with tiny stars, so beautiful, just like the man in my memories who smiled and asked if I liked him. I lowered my head, holding back the sour emotions, and nodded vigorously. It's delicious, and I really like it. The last bowl of noodles ended up in the trash can, because I cried. He Wenjin thought it was because they were too hard to eat. He picked up the chopsticks and took a bite. Then, the next second, it went into the trash can. He frowned, clearly dissatisfied. I want to cry too. It's so awful. Very cute. It made me laugh out loud, dispersing the gloom between my brows. I encouraged. It's okay. Your cooking will definitely be delicious in the future. Why? I smiled and said, because I will be your only diner in the future. The man's eyes twinkled. His gaze thoughtful and inscrutable. He said in a deep voice, Song Tangin, what will you be to me in the future? I was momentarily stunned. Looking up at him, I met his dark, confident, and certain eyes. He had guessed it. Of course, he was always so clever. Perhaps, I paused for a moment before slowly saying, a lover, someone in love. I thought He Wenjin might be taken aback or might frown and press further. But instead, he relaxed his expression. His eyes slightly crinkling and his lips curving up, shedding his casual indifference, appearing utterly sincere, he said, that's good then. Seeing the mole by his eye tremble with his smile, I suddenly wanted to taste what it was like. Thinking it, I did it. I lifted my foot and kissed him, under his astonished gaze. I grinned. He Wenjin, I really like you. I forgot to tell you in my last life, this life, I'll tell you. I like you. I've always really liked you. Before going to sleep, he winked and tucked me in. If you get scared, call me, and I'll come right over. Before he left, he also placed the amulet he wore around his neck into my palm. I knew this. He Wenjin was frail as a child, and his mother got this amulet for him, to protect him as he grew up. Now, he was using it to ensure my safety, clutching the jade pendant. My heartbeat was erratic, and my cheeks were burning hot. Only when he Wenjin slowly walked out and closed the door did I realize my face felt a bit sore from smiling. My heart felt swollen too. He Wenjin was always like this, seeming like a playboy who never took anything seriously, yet he was actually the most meticulous and gentle person. And that night, I couldn't sleep until the middle of the night, a bit excited and a bit afraid. I glanced at the phone by my pillow, thought for a moment, wondering if he Wenjin had already fallen asleep. I was afraid to disturb him with a call, maybe just send a text instead. Are you asleep? Just as I sent it, feeling it was a bit redundant and about to retract it, suddenly, there were footsteps at the door. Then, the sound of the door opening. When I opened my eyes again, He Wenjin was already standing by my window bed. The moonlight through the window fell on He Wenjin's shoulders, softening his sharp features into a gentle warmth. He leaned down and gently asked, "Ah-in, what's wrong?" Less than a minute after sending the message, he was already here. He was truly following through on his words. He said he would come, no matter how late. He always comes when I need him. Perhaps, like me, he too found no sleep last night, all because he was afraid I might truly need him. Thinking of this, my heart clenched tightly. It hurt and felt suffocating. I ended up staying at He Wenjin's house for half a month. The most interesting part was waiting for He Wenjin to come home. He would be in the kitchen, showcasing his culinary skills, while I leaned against the doorway, quietly watching him. Sometimes, I'd lend him a hand, under the warm yellow light, with his hair slicked back. His handsome yet somewhat immature face appeared softer, enveloped in a gentle aura. At this time, he hadn't yet graduated from university. Compared to the resolute and decisive CEO he in my previous life, he now seemed more naive and tender. This was a time I had never been part of, never known. Occasionally, he would look up at me, his lips curving into a gentle smile. The clear love in his eyes was impossible to hide. He really liked me a lot. In that moment, I realized that in the times I was unaware, He Wenjin truly cared deeply for me. My heart tightened suddenly, emotions flooding through me and culminating in a long, deep sigh. He Wenjin's cooking skills improved day by day. The Song family could no longer contain themselves. I had thought that the Song family wouldn't just let Song Ru admit guilt and go to prison, but I didn't expect that they would bribe He Xiaoxiao's agent to accuse me as the real instigator. Such shamelessness, such despicableness. In front of the cameras, Song's mother revealed the truth about mine and Song Ru's origins. Tears streaming down her face, she cried. I never imagined Ain would intentionally hurt someone. She has always been such a good girl, but now to avoid punishment, she even framed her own sister. Although Aru is my own daughter, she hasn't enjoyed many blessings in life. Now she's even being falsely accused and sent to prison. It really breaks my heart. Songru nestled in her arms, clumsily wiping away her tears while her own streamed down her cheeks. Mom, don't be sad. My sister must have been confused when she made the mistake. I'm willing to take her place if it means she can take care of you. The mother and daughter, wailing pitifully in front of the media, looked extremely sorrowful. People who make mistakes should take responsibility. You shouldn't have to suffer for what isn't your fault. Finally, Song's father, looking stern and righteous in front of the cameras, declared, Song Tangyin, the Song family has raised you for so many years. We hope you will come forward and atone for your wrongdoing. Once the video was released, the internet erupted with condemnation against me. Such an ungrateful person. She enjoyed the good life of a fake heiress and now lets the Song family's own daughter take the blame. Is she even human? Song Tangyin, you vile woman, dare to do but not to own up. Utterly disgusting. Indeed, the Song family treated you too well, and you repay kindness with enmity. Truly despicable. The criticism continued. My private account was exposed. And I received a flood of messages every day. Even former classmates called to inquire about my situation. Those who cared, I occasionally replied. Those who wanted me to confess, I simply blocked. Despite the ongoing external turmoil, I did nothing. No matter how much the Song family schemed or agitated, as long as the police did not summon me, I am innocent. Why should I complicate things and fall into a trap of self-justification? That day, He Wenjin received a message and rushed home. Immediately saying, I can help you, I smiled and replied, no need, I'll handle it myself, but I stopped mid-sentence. for some reason, I suddenly remembered something that happened in my past life, a fierce argument, though it was called fierce. It was actually just because He Wenjin treated me too well, which made many jealous. Rumors about me going to jail were spread behind my back, and the internet was filled with curses. In the end, it was all about me not being worthy of He Wenjin. He Wenjin wanted to help me clear up the rumors. He wanted to attend the press conference with me and take legal action against the gossipers, but I felt it was unnecessary. I had been to prison before, and although I was innocent, I didn't want He Wenjin to also be subjected to criticism because of me. This angered He Wenjin. He coldly questioned me, asking if I truly cared about him, if I saw him as my husband, but I felt that a cold treatment was better. Thinking he was just being unreasonable and making a fuss, that day, the living room was dark, lit only by the dying light of the sunset. After a long silence, he scoffed and softly said, "You walk through life with integrity, and I won't allow others to point fingers at you. Do you understand, Song Tangyin?" I remained silent, refusing to respond. As I was leaving, I looked back and could see his solitary figure. I felt some regret then. I thought, maybe I should have just agreed with him. It was just a small matter, after all, but I never imagined that would be our last encounter. After his death, I kept asking myself, why didn't I accompany him? Why didn't I tell him my feelings? The bouquets of lilies, his meticulous care, his focused gaze. Was I really unaware of his love? I clearly knew, but I was a bastard who took advantage of his love. I was sure He Wenjin would stay with me till the end, recklessly indulging in his love, yet, I never tried to soothe his anxious heart. Until he died, then I understood love, but for the love realized too late. Nothing is more cruel than having no chance to express it, no chance to get closer, before losing it all forever. No more chances. Returning to this life is a chance given by heaven to make amends. All the dignity of love, the shyness, the gradual progression, I can't bother with it, nor can I learn it. I just want to be with him. I just want, most want, still want. So I hugged He Wenjin tightly, then kissed him on the lips. Between our locked lips, I gasped softly and said, "All right, you helped me. Here's a reward in advance." He Wenjin was taken aback for a moment, then more passionately pushed me down onto the couch. 2 hours later, I was too tired to get up, but I held on tightly to He Wenjin, refusing to let go. Looking at him, he was clearly too tired to keep his eyes open, yet he still didn't want to close them. I'm still a bit scared that this is all a dream. He leaned over and gently kissed my cheek and forehead. "I'm here, Ian, go to sleep, I'll always be here," I murmured an and could no longer hold back. Plunging into darkness, I suddenly woke up in a pitch-black room, dressed in an indigo nightgown, lying in a bedroom with black and white decor. There was a cup of cold water on the nightstand, next to it a white pill. I looked around. The room was empty and cold, without that familiar person. The pain suddenly shot through me. Memories flooded my mind, scene by scene. Finally freezing on that electrifying husky voice, "Ian, I really, really like you." So, it was a dream. I suddenly realized, it was truly a beautiful dream. I clutched my chest tightly, my hands and feet ice cold, as if ensnared in a net, slowly being deprived of my breath, tears dripping down. "Ian, what's wrong?" Someone suddenly pushed open the door and came over to me, looking at me anxiously, with tear-blurred eyes. I raised my hand to wipe away the tears, finally seeing the man clearly. "Ian, it's okay, I just went out to handle some matters with the Song family. I found the agent bribed by the Song family, and also the janitor who happened to pass by that day. He saw Songru pushing He Xiaoxiao down. Songru has been convicted. And I am suing the Song family for framing you. Ian, no one will frame you anymore." The man gently patted my back while telling me everything that had happened while I was asleep. I looked up at him, leaning gently into his embrace, listening to the clear, strong heartbeat in his chest. I finally smiled. "It's okay, I missed you," I softly told him. "He Wenjin, have I ever told you, I really, really like you a lot?" The man chuckled and held me tightly in his arms. He said, "I like Ian too." After many years, people in love finally confessed their love to each other. Mountains and seas, time and space, none could hinder the reunion of those in love. He Wenjin's side story. I am reborn. After my rebirth, the first thing I did was go to the Song family, yet I found the Song family still harmonious. Song Tangyin was still the coldest, smartest goddess of the academy, not the seemingly gentle but inwardly deeply scarred Mrs. He of the past life. Ian had no sense of security. Prison was too harsh. She was envied and hated, often tormented by other prisoners in the middle of the night. Even after being released, the slightest noise would wake her. And then, she couldn't sleep again, sitting up all night. Yet even so, she could perform her duties flawlessly by day. My Ian, fragile as snow yet resilient as pine. It seems a single ray of light could melt her, but in fact, she is indestructible. I love her. And I admire her. At the school's freshman ceremony, Song Tangyin, as the student council president, went up to the podium to speak, I sat in the audience, looking at her from a distance. The girl wore a uniform, her hair in a ponytail, revealing a beautiful yet youthful face. She effortlessly radiated her beauty and showcased her knowledge, captivating many not just with her looks but also her words. At that moment, Ain was the bright, innocent top student from his memories. Standing on the podium, the wind brushed her hair and the sunlight seemed to favor her, casting a soft golden glow upon her. Suddenly, I wished that time could stand still right at this moment. I hoped that his Ain would never have to endure any hardships, always remain innocent, where smiles are just smiles, and sorrows are just sorrows, unaffected by rumors, untouched by mockery. How wonderful that would be. I had already known that Songru would face trouble, so I had installed a surveillance camera in that secluded corridor. I was about to release the footage when I received a distress message from Song Tangyin. In that instant, I knew Ain was back. I wanted to know her stance this time, how she would handle the Song family affairs. But this time, she refused to take the blame. She left the Song family. I saw her quietly dragging her luggage, walking alone on the deserted plane tree-lined boulevard. When she saw me, she blossomed into a smile. It made me feel, yes, the sunlight was so warm that day. I took her home. Pretending to be oblivious to everything, after much effort, I made a bowl of colorless noodles. Watching her stunned expression, gradually, I guided her to realize my love for her. Seeing her heart flutter for me, I should have been overjoyed, but seeing her tears at that moment, I felt a pang of heartache. Never mind, I thought, loving her is enough. Whether she loves me back or not, what does it really matter? But in the end, she threw herself into my arms, clinging tightly to me, telling me, "He Wenjin, I really, really, really like you." At that moment, it felt as though flowers were blooming all around. I fought back the tears, responding word by word to my princess. "I do too, Song Tangyin. I really, really, really like you too." People say, those who love each other will eventually meet. I believe, on the day we meet, the sunlight must be warm,